3 minutes, 30 seconds remaining. Three minutes remaining. Two minutes, 30 seconds remaining. Two minutes remaining. One minute, 30 seconds remaining. One minute remaining. Forty-five seconds remaining. Thirty seconds remaining. Fifteen seconds. Break ends in 5 seconds.
To infinity and beyond.
He's live. He's nationwide. This is the Zach Gelb Show. Here's your host, Zach Gelb.
From the palatial yet not overly ostentatious studios of the Infinity Sports Network here in beautiful New York City, sitting on top of the 10th floor, 345 Hudson Street. Welcome on in to what is a Monday edition of the Zach Gelb Show across all the great local Infinity Sports Network affiliates, Sirius XM, Channel 158, the free Odyssey app, and of course, streaming live on YouTube. 855-212-4227 is the number to jump on in. That's 855-212-4227. 4227. You could always get at me on Instagram, where I'm straight flexing, or via the good old cesspool of Twitter, at Zach Gelb. That is ZACHGELB. We're rock and rolling all the way up until 6 p.m. Eastern, 3 p.m. Pacific time today. Coming up at 5 p.m. Eastern time, Willie Colon is going to stop by. There's a whole lot to do in the NFL world. Wild Card Weekend does conclude tonight, as you do have the Los Angeles Rams in Glendale, Arizona, going up against the Minnesota Vikings. We had what was an uneventful Wild Card Weekend for the most part. The first 4 games were not good games. You did get to see a good game in some capacity last night up against the Washington Commanders and the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. And as predicted on this show, the Washington Commanders were going to win that game outright. So I hope we get a good game tonight between the Vikings and the Rams. I was in Philly yesterday, and man, that was one of the more bizarre scenes that I got thrown right into the middle of with A.J. Brown on the sideline with the book. And I got a chance to talk to A.J. Brown after the game. We'll play that audio later on in the show. But I want to start things off, and we'll get into college today. Terrible play calling by Sark. I'm still incredulous over that. Congratulations to the Buckeyes. They're off to the national championship game, and we already hear going back to last week when Notre Dame did find a way to get the job done up against Penn State. But let's start the show with the Steelers, because I'm sick and tired of the way that we talk about the Steelers. The Steelers standard and the Steelers way has been long done and over with. The standard in Pittsburgh used to be not only get to the postseason, but have intentions and goals and aspirations of winning it all. This is an organization that they have not won a playoff game since January of 2017. That's just the fact. And when you look at this team, they have been not ready. They have been uncompetitive in the first half of their last 5 playoff games. They have been outscored $126 to 38 in their last 5 playoff games. So if we were to sit here with like almost any other coach, and they have not won a playoff game since January 2017, they have not been ready in their last 5 playoff games, we would be sitting here and we'd be saying, fire that coach. And it's crazy to me how quickly people turned on Bill Belichick, how Andy Reid was shown the door even in Philadelphia, and some of the similarities even with Mike McCarthy. And we can't sit here and criticize Mike Tomlin for whatever the reasons are. It's like if you criticize Mike Tomlin, and I'm not sitting here saying fire him, but if you sit here and you're critical of Mike Tomlin nationally, it's, oh, you don't know what you're talking about. He would get a job in 2 seconds if the Steelers ended up moving on from him. Okay. I am understanding of the situation that I am not saying fire Mike Tomlin today. But the Steelers have to move this thing forward. The Steelers have to put a limit here on how much more they're willing to take. Because you know what the Steelers have become? The Pittsburgh Steelers have become the 2011 to 2015 Cincinnati Bengals. 9 to 12 wins a year. They're always in the postseason. And they show up. They're there Wild Card Weekend. And they go home. They go to Cancun. They go golfing. Wherever you want to go after you lose a postseason game. But that's what the Steelers have become. And I get it. Mike Tomlin's a really damn good coach. Mike Tomlin has been there for a long time. You know, maybe it's best for both parties that you start to think about life without one another. And I understand Tomlin is under contract through 2027. Mike Tomlin, though, if I'm running the Steelers, I would say this to him. You have 2 more years. And in those next 2 years, you better either win a playoff game or find a long-term solution to the quarterback problem post-Big Ben. Because Russell Wilson's not that dude. Russell Wilson is not the long-term guy. Neither is Justin Fields. But they need to go bring in someone where you could say, okay, I could see a 5-year plan with that guy as our quarterback. And they haven't been able to do that successfully. And that's the biggest problem with the Steelers. There's other problems. The coaching staff, the coordinators aren't that great. Right? The skill position players are not fantastic. Like Pat Fryermuth's good. Najee Harris and Jalen Warren are fine. George Pickens, you just never know what mood he's going to show up in. But they could improve on the offensive side of the ball. But there's no reason why this team and this organization that has such a proud standard and usually is one of the gold standard organizations shouldn't have a playoff victory since the 2016 season. Just unacceptable. And I find the conversation fascinating Because whenever you have a conversation about Mike Tomlin's future, it's, oh, he's a really good coach. Oh, the Steelers would be crazy to move on from him. But if I just didn't tell you who the coach was, like if I said, hey, Mike McCarthy hasn't won a playoff game, let's just say, since the 2016 season. If I told you Mike McCarthy in his last 5 playoff games was outscored in the first half 126-38, everyone would be saying, oh, Mike McCarthy needs to be fired. But when you say the name Mike Tomlin or even the name Sean Payton, people don't say that. It's, oh, he's a really good coach. And last time I checked, Sean Payton won a Super Bowl, Mike Tomlin won a Super Bowl, and Mike McCarthy won a Super Bowl. So why are we unwilling to criticize Mike Tomlin the same way that we're willing to criticize Mike McCarthy? Because it's not as if the Steelers, right, I'm slamming them for not winning another Super Bowl with Mike Tomlin. I'm slamming them for not even advancing in the postseason. Since 2016, they have not advanced. So it's crazy to me. And for the last few years, I'll admit it, right? I've never called for Mike Tomlin to be fired. I'm not even saying fire him today. But you have to come up with the plan. Because if you're just resting on the laurels that Mike Tomlin's going to find a way to figure it out, well, is he? Because we are all so quickly to slam Marvin Lewis, right? Marvin Lewis, all those teams that got to the postseason from 2011 to 2015, 9-12 wins, and they never won a playoff game. What's the difference between those teams and this Mike Tomlin team for the last 5, 6, 7 years? They're the same damn thing. And it's crazy, but when I was watching that game on Saturday night up against the Ravens, which I had zero expectations that the Steelers were going to win, that's the team, that's the organization that I compared them to. The 2011 to 2015 Cincinnati Bengals. That's what the Steelers have become. And it's sad. It's pathetic. Because the Steelers standard used to be about winning Lombardi trophies. Now they can't even have a standard or a goal of winning one playoff game. Because they haven't won a playoff game since January of 2017. And they've been non-competitive in these games. How does Mike Tomlin have this team getting outscored 126-38? Once again, I'll say it. 126-38 in their last 5 first half of postseason games. So Mike Tomlin now, if I'm ownership, I'm sitting him down. I'm saying you're under contract through 2027. You have 2 more years, though, in my book. Forget about when your contract expires. You have 2025, 2026. In those 2 years, you either win us a playoff game or you get us someone that we feel is a franchise quarterback. If you don't do that, then, Mike, we're done. Thank you for what you've done. You've been a really damn good coach, right? You're a man of standard and high class and excellence. But eventually, every person has their expiration. And unless if Mike finds a way to win a playoff game or get a franchise quarterback, his time in Pittsburgh should come to an end within the next 2 years. So when we look at this team moving forward, we just addressed the Tomlin part of it. Now let's get to Russell Wilson. I don't think Russell Wilson should be brought back as the quarterback. Here is Mike Tomlin, though, after the game on Saturday night when he was asked what they'll do at QB for next year.
Take a big picture approach. I'm really assessing what happened today, man. And I'm certainly appreciative of their efforts tonight. But I could say that largely for the entire season. They're 2 quality people, 3 quality people at the quarterback position, man. And really appreciate what they poured into this.
You could be quality people, right? There's a lot of nice guys in this league. I'm sure Nate Peterman was a nice guy in this league. I don't know why I just went to him. But it doesn't mean that you're a franchise quarterback. It's something that you should want to bring back. So that's, to me, the first part of this. Do you bring Russell Wilson back? And if you bring Russell Wilson back, guess what's going to happen? You'll win 9, 10, 11 games next year, right? You'll be competitive, but it'll be the same old story. When January rolls around, what are you going to do? You're going to get into the postseason, and you're going to go home as a loser. And you won't get out of the wild card round. Here is Russell Wilson from earlier today and his future with the Pittsburgh Steelers.
Yeah, that's the plan. I mean, obviously, I love it here and everything else, and I think we have a great football team. Obviously, it didn't go in the way we wanted it to, and I think there's a lot more to do. And I said to you guys before, I always just trust God in the process.
You can't call this team a great football team. That's the change that needs to happen here with the Steelers. We look at the Steelers, right, and we see their brand, and we go, "Oh, they're a great team. Oh, they're a wonderful organization." But they don't show the perception of them off the field, on the field. They don't. This is not your grandfather's Steelers. Heck, this is not even your father's Steelers. But these new Pittsburgh Steelers, they win games where there'd be some other fan bases that will say, hey, I'd like to be a fan of the Pittsburgh Steelers. They're always in the postseason. But if you keep on getting invited into the dance, and the moment you show up to the dance, you leave after 10 seconds getting into the dance, why the heck, why were you even invited? What's the point of going to the dance if you show up, you look in, and then you go immediately home? You got to enjoy yourself. You got to have a good time. You got to enjoy the appetizers. You got to join the main course. You got to enjoy all the dancing that goes on, the partying, all the drinking. But the Steelers don't do that because they're invited, but they don't end up having a fun time when they're there. And that's a problem. Let's play George Pickens on his growth with the Pittsburgh Steelers. There's room for growth with the Steelers.
Yeah, I seen signs of growth for sure. From past, the first year I've been here, just way more growth for sure.
George, does that make you optimistic going forward?
Nah.
That's the most damaging one. Yeah, I've seen signs of growth. Does it make you optimistic for the future moving forward? Nah. Now, it's not as if he's been there for a long time. It's his third year in the league. He got there. 2022, they were 9-8. They missed the postseason. Then last year, they were 10-7. They lost in the wild card round. This year, they were 10-7, and they lost in the wild card round. So he kind of did something that was half-assed, and I kind of appreciate it from George Pickens. He was trying to give you the stereotypical, right, good teammate answer. Yeah, I've seen growth. And then when he was pressed and followed up on it, are you optimistic about that?
Nah.
Remember those What's Up commercials? What's up? That's all I could think about for some reason when I heard, nah.
Nah.
Now, here's the curveball. TJ Watt. Think about if TJ Watt was a wide receiver. What would every Tom, Dick, and Harry be saying on the radio today? TJ Watt, go get yourself a quarterback. TJ Watt, demand a trade from the Pittsburgh Steelers. Now, TJ Watt did not play a good game in the wild card round. He was terrible. TJ Watt, though, is still one of the better defensive players in this league. Both could be true. Just like I with Mike Tomlin, both could be true. Mike Tomlin's a good coach, but if Mike Tomlin doesn't start winning games when it matters, he should be out of a job, right? Like, both statements can be true. And there's 1 year left in the contract for TJ Watt. You know the Pittsburgh Steelers are going to want to get a deal done within this offseason. But if I'm TJ Watt and you are on the road of becoming one of the great defensive players that this league has ever seen, and right, you'll easily already have a Hall of Fame career. But if you want to win a Super Bowl, why would you stay in Pittsburgh right now? Because the numbers show that this team is nowhere close to winning a Super Bowl. Like, you could consistently be in the dance. You could consistently not win playoff games. Just because you get there doesn't mean you're close. There is a big difference in this league from being a good team to a very good team, and then a very good team to a great team. Right now, the Steelers are just a good team. There's a ton of teams that I could find a way that I could get them 10 wins a season, right? In that 9 to 11 wins per season. But just because you have 9 or 11 wins a season doesn't even mean you're very good. And then if I can't even call them very good, it doesn't mean that you're anywhere close to being great. Like, what makes the Steelers so great? Their defense the other night got embarrassed by Lamar Jackson and Derrick Henry. Their offense struggled to move the ball. So what's the part of this football team? The coach was unprepared. What's the part of the football team that you go, oh, they're great, outside of just how freely we use this word great in this society? So I'm not exonerating TJ Watt, but with what TJ Watt has done the last few years, is he a great player? Absolutely. You'd be a moron if you say otherwise. So I would seriously consider, if I'm TJ Watt, even though it's probably not in his personality, even though he loves Pittsburgh and he doesn't want to be a bad guy, thinking about requesting a trade right now and trying to go to a place that will, hey, you'll get a lot in return for TJ Watt, at least 2 first-round draft picks, and go to a place where you actually have a chance to compete for a Super Bowl. Because right now in Pittsburgh, you don't got a shot to compete for a Super Bowl with the way that things have been run since 2017. Here is TJ Watt. Does he still want to be a Pittsburgh Steeler?
I want to be a Pittsburgh Steeler. You guys know that. I don't want to leave this place, especially in this. I want to be part of the solution. I've put so much into it here. I've seen so many guys. I mean, I want to help Cam Hayward get to where we need to get. I want to be a part of the solution. I don't want to leave this place. I love the people here, and that goes beyond just the coaches. It's the fan base. It's the people, the community, and we owe it to them to get it right. And I want to be part of the solution, not leave here and go somewhere else. That's not my intention.
Now, I want to be abundantly clear here. I'm not comparing the Steelers where they are now to where the Detroit Lions were. But do you think Matthew Stafford, who loved Detroit, who loved being a Lion, who went through some good times and then more bad times, you think he has any regret, even with what the Lions are doing today? You think he has any regret about forcing his way out of Detroit and winding up with the Rams? Absolutely not, because he won a Super Bowl. And that's what life could be for TJ Watt if he gets out of the Steelers organization. Because the Steelers are in the worst place you could be right now. They're just stuck. They're not horrible. They're not picking in the top 10 of the draft. They're not a disgrace, but they're nowhere close to getting to the tippy top of the mountain and screaming out victory. They are just a football team that's above average. They're always in the wild card chase. They'll get off to good starts. They'll make you think they're going to win the division. Here and there, they'll win the division. But when you start to separate the good teams from the elite teams, the Steelers are in the good team category, and they are clearly nowhere within arm's reach of any of these great teams. They're not close to what the Ravens are doing right now. And you can beat them in a regular season. I get that. Divisional game. You know, they're not close to what the Bills are doing right now. They're not close, obviously, to what the Chiefs are doing or the Lions or the Eagles. They're not. Those teams you could legitimately see all winning a Super Bowl this year. The Steelers, you knew, especially for the last 4 or 5 weeks of the season, that this team was nowhere close to forget about winning a Super Bowl, winning a playoff game. And I remember I talked to Russell Wilson right after his team lost to the Eagles. And I said, you guys have been stuck on being good. And he said, it's up to us to prove that we're going to be great. And they weren't able to prove so. So this is a directionless organization right now. And there's some big decisions that have to be made on the coach, the quarterback, and then also TJ Watt if he wants to be there. How do you view the Pittsburgh Steelers right now? 855-212-4227, 855-212-4227. And do you think it's time for Mike Tomlin to be let go as the Steelers head coach or trade him somewhere else? I would sit him down, and I'll say this again, 2-year plan, Mike. You got 2 years. Win a playoff game or get me a franchise quarterback. If you can't do either, then as much as we love you, as much as we respect you, it's time to move on as Mike Tomlin is the head football coach of the Steelers. We're coming on back with the best story right now in the NFL. What could usurp it the rest of the way in the postseason? We'll get to that next.
You're in a 5-minute break. Four minutes, 30 seconds remaining. 4 minutes remaining. Three minutes, 30 seconds remaining. Three minutes remaining. Two minutes, 30 seconds remaining. Two minutes remaining. One minute, 30 seconds remaining. One minute remaining. Forty-five seconds remaining. Thirty seconds remaining. Fifteen seconds. Break ends in 5 seconds.
Welcome back to the Zach Gelb Show on the Infinity Sports Network.
All righty, this is Zach Gelb Show, Infinity Sports Network. We got one more wild card game until wild card weekend is complete. We'll see who gets the victory tonight between the Minnesota Vikings and the LA Rams. How about the Commanders? I told you going into the weekend, that was the game I was most excited for, and I thought that would be the best game. And the two games on Saturday were absolute snooze fests. You know, I went to Harold's Deli in Edison, New Jersey, and like Man versus Food was there once. The sandwich sizes are just enormous, And just the portions are just absolutely crazy. I was there with a group of 30 people. We do like a family friends thing, usually wild card weekend that Saturday. And, the pastrami comes out, the cake comes out, the pancakes. Some people got turkey, you got Reubens, all the stuff that was coming out. It was a French fries, onion rings, matzo ball soup. It was absolutely ridiculous with how much food was coming on out. So I got back to my apartment for the start of Wild Card Weekend, right? Sitting down, Chargers and Texans. That first half was so boring. And I needed an entertaining first half because I was in a food coma. And I kept on dozing off, waking back up, Justin Herbert interception, pastrami fart, dozing off, waking back up, pastrami fart. Like, it was just over and over again. And thankfully, I was by myself in my apartment. Because if anyone else was around me, I would be like, PU, that's disgusting. But that's what it was. And then I got about like 10 more minutes of sleep during halftime. And then I was all awake and fully ready to go for the second half. And I don't think that second half got any better. That second half was really tough to watch. And Justin Herbert threw not one, not two, not three, but 4 interceptions. Texans finally have a good moment this season. And they're off to the next round where they'll go up against the Kansas City Chiefs. And then the nightcap game, the Steelers and the Ravens, it kind of did go the way that I thought it was going to go. Where the Steelers would be an inferior opponent to the Baltimore Ravens, and Lamar Jackson and Derrick Henry would just be too much. But then even Sunday, outside of Bo Nix tossing a touchdown pass early, the Bills just overtook that game, and they did what they should do. Right? Broncos, nice story. They've overachieved this year. Bills are just in a different class. You send them home. And I was in Philadelphia. The atmosphere was good. But that Packers team decimated with injuries. You had Watson out before the game started. You had 2 other receivers go down. You had a defensive player get carted off. Offensive lineman get carted off. The Packers are just the walking wounded. And it's not as if Philadelphia did anything spectacular in that game. If we're being honest, if Philadelphia was playing, let's say, the Lions, the Commanders, the Buccaneers, really any other team, the Rams, the Vikings, you could make a case they would have lost. But the Packers just didn't have the firepower, and the Eagles were able to survive their sloppiness on the offensive side of the ball. The defense was the best unit. And you know what I found out after the game, Stu? This is a weird little factoid. So I'm in the press box in Philadelphia. The coach's box is adjacent to the press box. So usually they hold the elevators after the game. And if you're in the press, you can't get into those elevators because they let the coaches go down and then, understandably so. But they opened up the elevators, said, media could go in. And I'm standing in the back right corner of the elevator. Big guy, just go to the back of the elevator, let everyone else, pile on in. And they said, the coaches are coming. Everyone makes way. And one of the coaches on the Eagles, I don't know who he was, he said, you better move out of that corner. I said, just wondering why. He goes, Vic Fangio is always the back right corner of the elevator. So Vic comes in after a great game plan. I move over. I thought the guy was kidding at first. He goes, no, I'm being dead serious. Like, Vic will throw you out of the way. Which part of me wanted to just stay in the corner of the elevator to see, old man Vic Fangio just throw me out of the way. But, hey, I have a game like that, I'll gladly move out of the way. And we rode the elevator down. And the Eagles obviously got the victory. But that game was boring. The Eagles' defense won the game, but the offense, it looked sluggish. It looked like, an offense that didn't have their quarterback for the last 3 weeks. And then he comes on back. But that Sunday night game I knew was going to be the best game because of the moxie of Baker Mayfield. Mike Evans, a phenomenal player. Bucky Irving's been a sensational rookie. And then on the other side, you take a look at the Commanders. They just have it going where things could change rather quickly in this league. That's why when I open up the show with the Steelers and we're being critical of Mike Tomlin, and I know he won a Super Bowl, but with the way that they performed in their last 5 first halves of the playoff games, they haven't won a playoff game since the 2016 regular season, January 2017, that postseason. It's like those teams, just because Tomlin won a Super Bowl those years ago, they don't get enough national criticism. But look how many different quarterbacks they've had. Look how they haven't got it right. Now, they've never been dreadful. They've always been about 9 to 12 wins. They've never been below 500, obviously, in the Tomlin era. But you look at a team like the Texans and the Commanders. The Texans, they got C.J. Stroud. They turned their team around and their franchise around the last 2 years. They both made the playoffs and been playing in divisional round weekend. You look at the Commanders, they were the laughingstock of the league. Daniel Snyder out, Josh Harrison. Last year, season comes and goes, and then they're picking second overall in the draft, and they end up getting Jaden Daniels, and it changes the direction of their franchise. That's why I said with the Steelers, they're in the worst place they could be right now because the Pittsburgh Steelers, they're just fine. They're above average. They're somewhat good, but they're nowhere close to winning a Super Bowl, and they're also nowhere close to being a top 5 pick to get that game changer in the draft at the quarterback position. So you look at the Commanders and what they did yesterday, it was another step in the new version of this football team. Because I'm convinced about this, Stu. If Daniel Snyder was still the owner, or if this was the Commanders of old, if Jaden Daniels wasn't their quarterback, that kick by Zane Gonzalez that hit the upright, it would not have gone in. But that's kind of the fortuitous bounce that you needed. Now, Gonzalez, he psyched himself out before the kick, adjusting the sock, taking off the shoe, and all that stuff. But here is how the game-winning field goal for the Commanders punching their ticket to the divisional round sounded on the Commanders radio network.
Zane Gonzalez looking to send Washington into the divisional round. Snap good, hold down, kick on its way. It is good! The Cardiac Commanders are the clutch Commanders. They do it again. We'll see you in Detroit. And Zane Gonzalez kicks in the door and kicks us into the second round of the playoffs.
I think that's what, Bram Weinstein, and then also you have London Fletcher. I believe that's the name of the play-by-play guy. But London Fletcher's also the color analyst for the Commanders Radio Network. The call, the energy was great. But let's see if Ack realized something.
No doink.
There we go. That is why Ack is the gold standard for professional broadcasting.
And you hear the doink. But the doink is so much part of it because it builds, you know, if you say, hits off the upright and goes through, that makes the call.
So I was listening to our pals on Westwood One, and I'm driving back from Philadelphia yesterday, and I get into right before the tunnel where I have to refill the car with gas right at the gas station there, and I'm listening on Westwood One, and I go, all right, before I go fill up the gas, I go, let me just hear what happens in the game.
Who did the game yesterday on Westwood?
I forget who did the game on Westwood One. Mayock was on the color commentary. I forget who the play-by-play. Oh, it was Benetti.
Okay. Oh, then he nails it.
So I'm listening to it, and I'm like, oh my God, this kick is gonna miss. Like when you're listening on the radio, you got to try to envision the play-by-play guy's doing a great job. He is able to make you have a vision of what's going on.
He's your eyes.
And when he gave the call, he goes, here comes the kick, and you hear the doink. And he goes, it's off the upright, and it's in, and I clearly got a sense of what was going on.
Bingo.
To be able to formulate an opinion before I went back and watched it and saw everything happen. But then I was, continue to drive in the 10 more minutes that I have, and they played the Commanders call, and I'm like, what a difference.
Yep.
You had no clue. But that's the best story right now in this postseason, is what the Washington Commanders have been able to do. Now, 3 things could eventually usurp it. If Buffalo wins it all because they've never won a Super Bowl, if the Lions win it all because they've never won a Super Bowl, and then the other thing is if Lamar Jackson wins a Super Bowl. Now, the Ravens already have 2 Lombardi trophies, but we know Lamar Jackson, 2 MVPs, could be 3 after this year. If he ends up winning a Super Bowl this year, that would be a mega story. But I don't even care if the Commanders lose next weekend to the Lions. What they've been able to do this year, it's one of my favorite stories in the NFL just because of how down and out that organization was and how embarrassed that fan base was. And now look where they are, year 1 of Jaden Daniels, and boom, they're in the divisional round. 855-212-4227, 855-212-4227. I got to be an honest man here. Mike in Abilene, Texas is on the line. Last time Mike called in, it was after his Ohio State Buckeyes lost to Michigan for the 4th straight year in a row. And I said I was going to send him something to cheer him up. Now, I forgot to send him something, but leading into the Tennessee game, and I have his address, we got his address, everything off the air. I said to myself, I'll wait to send Mike something when Ohio State gets eliminated, just to cheer them up. And since then, Ohio State, right, started to play man football, started to be the team that they're capable of. They blew out Tennessee. They dismantled Oregon. And then that Texas game was close, but Jack Sawyer came through on 4th and goal. Really, the game got botched when Steve Sarkisian just didn't run a QB sneak or run out of the eye on 2nd and goal at the 1. That would have tied it up. Doesn't mean that Ohio State would have lost the game. And now Ohio State is in the national championship game a week from tonight, where they'll be going up against the Notre Dame Fighting Irish. So either I will send Mike something in congratulations, or I'll send him something to try to cheer him up after what we see coming up next Monday night. Mike, how are you?
A wonderful, Zach. First and foremost, man, the myth, the legend, best on air, best team on air too. Okay, best team. Yeah, you know why I don't call anymore? Because the last couple times I tried to make predictions, we wound up losing 4 in a row to Michigan. You're gonna call me crazy. For me, and I bet you if ESPN went back to that little bar they did the number on where they asked all the fans about Ryan Day, you got one more, bud. That's great. That's cool. We beat the crap out of everybody. This is who we are. This is who we've been. So in our opinion, that's great. We expect to win this game. We expect to win the next game. Not every year. I'm not one of those. But our talent level is finally front and center for everyone to see. So, yes, it's nice to celebrate victory. But guess what? As Buckeye fans, who should be normal to us, no, it's salty for me. Oh, so you mean we could have been doing this all season long? You mean to tell me we didn't have to lose the 4th in a row? We didn't have to go through this scare, this panic.
But I think you needed to. Now, honestly, if you didn't lose to Michigan, I don't think this team would have been here.
No, you're absolutely right. And it's not the team that needed it.
It was the coach.
We needed Ryan Day to realize what he had. We knew who we were. We just needed him. Hey, man, you're the nicest guy in the world. Take a page out of the not nice guy's playbook and go run the score up on somebody. Does anybody think Oregon was ever truly our equal? Not even close. Texas, close game? 70,000 offensive penalties. 3 or 4 of them ending touchdown drives. So, no, that game wasn't close. The score was close until it wasn't close. The talent level was never close. We were in our own backyard in the state of Texas. And that's what I don't understand. We could have been doing this all along. And this is crazy. You won't get other fans headed to the national championship pissed off.
Well, I'll say this, Mike.
Still pissed off.
It's the job's not done yet, and there has been they've deserved praise. There's no doubt about it with the way that they've played, but I'm not ready to fully give them all the praise until they win the national championship. If they do so up against Notre Dame.
That's a good Irish team we got over there. That's a good fight.
Well, do me a favor, Mike. I'm up against it. I'm up against it, so I got to let you run. But give me a call back before the game. We'll get the official prediction from Mike in Abilene, Texas. Thanks so much for calling in. All righty, let's get the latest update in with the Ackman, Rich Ackerman.
Infinity Sports Network Sports Flash.
Oh, Mike McCarthy is free to talk to teams at midnight tomorrow. He's not going back to Dallas, as he and the Cowboys reportedly couldn't agree on the length of a new deal, so he'll be a free agent and will be in demand. The Bears already asked permission to speak with him and were denied last week. The Saints also apparently have an interest. McCarthy went 49-35 in 5 seasons, 3 12-win seasons, 3 playoff appearances. The Patriots introduced Mike Vrabel as their new head coach today. It has been a tough week for everyone with the wildfires in L.A., and as a result of those fires, tonight's playoff game between the Vikings and Rams takes place in Arizona as the two teams try to focus on football for today. The Rams, the higher seed by virtue of their division title, but the Vikes come in at 14-3. L.A. did beat Minnesota earlier this year, and Matthew Stafford came away impressed by the Vikes D that day.
They do a nice job of mixing it up and making the quarterback the center, the whole team, on offense really be on the same page. And they do a really nice job of not, making too many mistakes when it comes to busting a coverage or anything, and they do a lot. So you can tell they're really well coached. I got a lot of respect for them as a team, as a defense, and as a play caller.
The Rams, the lowest scoring team to ever enter the playoffs, averaging 21.6 points per game. I'm Rich Ackerman.
Hey, like us on Facebook. Our handle is INF Sportsnet. That's INF Sportsnet for our Facebook page. This is the Infinity Sports Network.
You're in a 5-minute break. Four minutes, 30 seconds remaining. Four minutes remaining. Three minutes, 30 seconds remaining. Three minutes remaining. Two minutes, 30 seconds remaining. Two minutes remaining. One minute, 30 seconds remaining. One minute remaining. Five seconds remaining. Seconds remaining. Fifteen seconds. Break ends in 5 seconds.
quarterbacks taking on the most polarizing issues in sports. Which side of the line of scrimmage will he end up on?
Offside. Defense number 69.
It's Onsides, Offsides with Zach Gelb.
Alrighty, Stu, what do we got cooking today?
All right, Zach, the Ravens and the Bills advance to the divisional round and will face off in an incredible matchup in Buffalo this weekend. Lamar is coming off of an AFC Championship game appearance, but is just 3-4 all-time in the playoffs, while Josh Allen is more respectable, 6-5 in the postseason, but his only title game appearance was back in 2020. Onsides, offsides, there's more pressure on Lamar than Josh Allen.
So let's just address the elephant in the room here. Here's the hot take. There's a lot of pressure on both these quarterbacks. This is like picking who's your favorite child, or it's like saying, would you rather have this or would you rather have that? And the options are both pretty damn good. I'm going to say there's more pressure on Lamar than Josh Allen to get the job done because Lamar has Derrick Henry. You look at the Bills, James Cook is a very good running back, but there's not another elite player with him. And with Derrick, even though he looks as if he could go play another 6-7 years, that's not going to be the case. So this is really the Ravens' time. The Bills, to me, have already overachieved this year. But if the Bills lose this weekend, yes, people are going to be questioning the Bills coming up on Monday. But if you ask me if there's more pressure on Allen or Lamar, and you said there's more pressure on Lamar, I would say onsides. Now, you could interpret that, hey, there's then more pressure on Josh Allen because he didn't have enough as much around him as Lamar, but I think the integrity of this question is to go win the game coming up on Sunday.
All right, the Chargers bowed out early after an ugly showing against the Texans, and now questions swirl about their future and some of their stars. J.K. Dobbins is a free agent after a career-high 905 yards, and future Hall of Famer Khalil Mack admitted that he has to decide if he'll return next season.
There's a lot of different thoughts in my head right now. Can't really speak on a definitive decision in the terms of what I'm going to do because I don't know if I'm going to play football moving forward. So try not to make a rash decision after a loss. I think I did that a couple of years ago. They didn't really go too well, but yeah, trying not to be emotional through this process and trying to think a little more clearly.
So onsides, offsides, the Chargers need both Dobbins and Mack if they want to take the next step.
I'm going offside on there. They have a good foundation with their offensive line. Justin Herbert has to be better, but he could still be a good quarterback in this league. If they lose one of those guys, then it means that they go get a bona fide number one wide receiver and you move Vlad McConkey to the number 2 wide receiver. Yeah, that's how you could go take that next step. Teams like the Packers, the Chargers, teams that were good this year but weren't great. They need to go get their quarterbacks number 1 wide receivers. I think the Chargers are one. So they need both Dobbins and Mack back. If they want to take that next step, I would go offside.
Offside.
All right, after a historic rookie season, C.J. Stroud took a step back at quarterback this year, seeing declines in completion percentage, yards, and touchdowns while throwing more than double the amount of interceptions. However, Stroud looked sharp against the Chargers, completing 67% of his passes for 282 yards and a touchdown. Onsides, offsides, you still consider Stroud a top 5 quarterback in the AFC.
Ooh, in the AFC. So Josh Allen, Patrick Mahomes, Lamar Jackson, Joe Burrow. And then who's the next? Ooh, that's a good question. It's nothing else with the Steelers or the Browns. Definitely not the Colts, Jaguars, or Titans. Raiders, no. Bo Nix had a good season, but no. Herbert, no. Aaron Rodgers, not after this year. And it comes down to Tua or C.J. Stroud. I would still say it's C.J. Stroud because he's won a playoff game. He's won multiple playoff games. Tua's never won a playoff game. So, yeah, I would still say he's a top 5 QB in the AFC. If you would have said NFL, like what I would have said before the season, yeah, now that would have been offside. But in the AFC, yeah, onside.
While Deion was adamant that he didn't want to go to the NFL, he softened his stance lately, saying that he considered it if he could coach.
Show some respect, by the way. That's Coach Prime.
Coach Prime. If he could.
Are you not a believer?
I'm a believer.
Okay, just making sure.
All right.
Show him respect.
He'd considered if he could coach both Shador and Shiloh. Now reports say that Coach Prime has expressed interest in the Raiders job, but according to The Athletic, the Raiders are not interested in Coach Prime. Onsides, offsides, the Raiders would be making a mistake not trying to hire Coach Prime.
A mistake in not talking to him? Would that qualify as onsides there?
I guess so. I don't know. Sure.
Okay.
Yeah.
Because I'm not going to sit there and say they should hire Coach Prime, but they should talk to him. So the Raiders would make a mistake not trying to hire Coach Prime. So let's just say by not hiring Coach Prime, I'm going to say offside. I don't think it's a mistake if they don't hire Coach Prime, but I think they should at least have a conversation with him, is the way that I'll answer that one.
Yeah, that's fair. All right, so Texas, they were sent packing despite having a chance to tie the game late in the fourth quarter against Ohio State on Friday. However, after being stuffed on 1st and goal at the 1-yard line, Sark inexplicably called an outside pitch play out of the shotgun that led to a 7-yard loss. Texas was forced to pass on the next 2 downs, eventually leading to Jack Sawyer's fumble return for a touchdown that sealed the game. After the game, Sark's explanation for the 2nd down play call had some people scratching their heads.
We went to a heavy package, and we ran it, and obviously didn't get much movement at all. And we had a plan to try to get the ball on the edge when we got down there. They went to big people. I can't quite tell. It was on the far side of where it got leaky. But that's one of those plays. If you block it all right, you get in the end zone, and we didn't, and we lose quite a bit of yardage. And at that point, you're kind of stuck behind the 8 ball.
All right, so onside, offsides, you can understand what Sark was thinking on that play call.
Absolutely not. I still don't get it. I was able to digest that play call Friday evening, Saturday, all of Sunday, and even most of today on Monday. That was one of the dumbest play calls I've ever seen from a good coach in Steve Sarkisian, who's done a really good job at Texas. You're on the 1-yard line. It's 2nd and goal. Put Arch Manning in, do a QB sneak. Have Quinn Ewers do a QB sneak. Or, I know it didn't work the play before, but run out of the I formation. It's 2nd and goal from the 1. You don't need to panic there. If you want to do that play call on 4th down, okay, because it didn't work on 2nd or 3rd down, fine. But on 4th down, that's inexcusable. You had Quinn Ewers lined up at the 6. You had Wisner lined up at like the 9. And you pitch it to him and you're like, oh, only if we would have blocked. Why are you moving in the wrong direction? You're nowhere close. And Fowler and Herbstreit, they're like, oh, praise the Ohio State defense. Defense is great. But they set it up as if they knew that was coming. And it's almost like Sark could hear the broadcast and he pressed the big fat red panic button. They wouldn't have won the game necessarily, but he cost them the game with that idiotic, and I mean idiotic play call, and I still can't believe it. QB sneak, I formation run. You're at the 1. It's 2nd down, not 4th where you have to get funky and pull a rabbit out of the hat. It's 2nd down. I couldn't believe that. So you can understand what Sark was thinking on that call? Absolutely not. Offside. Zach Gelb Show, Infinity Sports Network.
You're in a 5-minute break. Four minutes, 30 seconds remaining. Four minutes remaining. Three minutes, 30 seconds remaining. 3 minutes remaining. Two minutes, 30 seconds remaining. Two minutes remaining. One minute, 30 seconds remaining. One minute remaining. Forty-five seconds remaining. Seconds remaining. Fifteen seconds. Break ends in 5 seconds.
Infinity and beyond.
He's live. He's nationwide. This is the Zach Gelb Show.
It is the Zach Gelb Show on the Infinity Sports Network. You want to hear a photo that I never thought I would see online today? Hear about a photo? Stu, did you see this photo 15 minutes ago that was posted by any chance? You have no clue what I'm talking about. Nick Saban. Have you seen that? He took a photo with supermodel Sydney Thomas. I'm reading this via Dove Kleiman. They went golfing together. I don't know if it's a charity event or anything. It's what it says, trending. And sometimes these things are misleading. Supermodel Sydney Thomas went golfing with the legendary Nick Saban today. Thomas recently said that a coach slid into her DMs. I'm going to assume maybe it was Belichick sliding into the DMs. I don't think Nick Saban was sliding into her DMs. You know, you're not going to do that to Miss Terry. But, yeah, that's a photo that I did not think I would see today. It looks like a very powerful SEC super couple right there. Move over Paul Skeens and Livy Dunn. You got Coach Saban and Sydney Thomas. Oh, yeah, that's something. The Cowboys have released a statement. Jerry Jones has released a statement. Throughout Mike McCarthy's tenure here, including the last several weeks, I have been very complimentary of the job he has done. That is applied to our record over that time period, our team unity and culture. Mike's qualification and track record of success, and on a personal level, as a tremendous human being. I have great respect for Mike, and he has led the team through some very unique and challenging times during his tenure. Over the past week, Mike and I had the opportunity to conduct a joint review of all aspects of the past season, our players and staff, and also spent considerable time discussing the road forward for the team. These discussions were thorough and received an appropriate amount of time and depth to cover. Prior to reaching the point of contract negotiations, through it, became mutually clear that it would be better for each of us to head in a different direction. I thank Mike and wish his wife Jessica and their family the best. They have been a wonderful part of our community here. We will commence a search process immediately to hire the next head coach of the Dallas Cowboys. Another one bites the dust. So we have another job open, and that's the Dallas Cowboys. The Patriot job was filled. To give you my thoughts on that in just a bit, Mike Vrabel was introduced earlier today. And let me just also remind you, it's time to ask the pros. You, the listener, gets to ask us a question. It's brought to you by the fine folks at O'Reilly Auto Parts. Simply tweet your question at INF Sportsnet or at Zach Gelb using the hashtag #AskThePros. Be listening later in the extravaganza. We might answer your question. Think O'Reilly Auto Parts for all your car care needs. Get guaranteed low prices and excellent customer service from the professional parts people at O'Reilly Auto Parts. O'Reilly Auto Parts. Here's my question. As the Cowboys and Jerry Jones have parted ways, they allowed the contract to run out. The contract was going to expire tomorrow. It reminds me a lot like Jason Garrett, where Jason Garrett, when he was, I guess you could say, let go or not renewed as the head coach of the Cowboys, his contract was up, and they waited until the Eagles-Seahawks playoff game in the first half. That was the game where Jadeveon Clowney had the hit on Carson Wentz and knocked him out of the game, for that report to come out. And, Jerry Jones couldn't make the playoffs that year, so go make the playoffs by making some headlines and getting talked about that Jason Garrett wasn't coming back when everyone knew that. So in that situation, it was clear the Cowboys were moving off of Jason Garrett. In this case, though, I wonder, did the Cowboys intend to keep Mike McCarthy? And did Mike McCarthy say, thanks, but no thanks, I'll bet on myself, I'm good with the drama, and, I appreciate the relationship, but I'm out. It's not you, it's me, right? Give one of those lines. I think that is probably more believable than the Cowboys moving on. Now, I'm not saying it's inconceivable that the Cowboys wanted to move on, because that was the general sentiment before the season, that Mike McCarthy wasn't going to be back at the end of the year because he was a quack, lame duck head coach. But Mike McCarthy, considering the circumstances and considering how many injuries they had this year, he did not do a bad job with this football team. But I thought he was going to be back next year on probably a 2-year contract extension. However, last week, can we just recall this? The Chicago Bears did reach out to the Cowboys and they asked for permission. And the Cowboys said no. Now, last week, a lot of talk show hosts said, and a lot of insiders said, hey, if that's the case, that gives you the indication that McCarthy is going to be back. And I said, yeah, maybe it gives the preference that the Cowboys want him back. But I said last week on this show, and I did a Sports Minute about it, if I was Mike McCarthy, it's nice that the Cowboys want you back, or that they didn't, like, right, if that's the way that we're operating, they deny you permission and then they want you back. But if I'm Mike McCarthy, I wouldn't go back. And I would still say, okay, I become a free agent on that Tuesday. Let me go talk to the Chicago Bears who wanted to talk to me. Because if I'm Mike McCarthy and you ask me right now, would you rather be the coach of the Bears for the next few years, or would you rather be the coach of the Cowboys? Personally, I'd rather be the coach of the Bears, because the Bears still have an unknown at their quarterback position. We know that Dak Prescott is not that guy to go win to go win playoff games and to go be your franchise quarterback. Like, Dak is a franchise quarterback, but he's not the franchise quarterback. Like, he's a guy that's good. He's not great, and he's not someone that you walk into a season thinking you go win it all with. Now, did I think McCarthy was ever going to win a Super Bowl in Dallas? Heck no. But Mike McCarthy did a fine job. They were 6-10 his first year, I believe, if memory serves me right. Then they had back-to-back 12-win seasons, and they only won one playoff game. But this year was a make-or-break year, and unfortunately, the Cowboys were broken in terms of their players got hurt. And it's just unfortunate. But if I'm McCarthy, you got to be tired of the drama. Because Jerry Jones, thankfully he wrote this statement. Right? They had a PR person release it. Because whenever he opens his mouth now, it's just, what the heck is this guy saying? And not that McCarthy is like one of the greatest coaches ever, but he did win a Super Bowl. He's a respectable coach. He's a good man. He deserved better. And the Cowboys aren't interested in wins and losses. They're interested in how much drama they could stir up. So I'm not saying that it's beneath the Cowboys to reject the Bears' request and then say, okay, we want to move on. But I do believe that it's somewhat mutual here. Like, I'm going to tend to believe that the Cowboys would have liked to have McCarthy back for this upcoming season. They didn't have to, but they would have liked to have him back. And then I think Mike just sat there and said, okay, you guys want me back? And I heard there was no contract talks or something like that, but let's just assume. Mike probably said to himself, well, what are they going to do? Give me a 2-year contract extension? So then I'll basically be here for one more year, and then it's the same lame duck thing once again? So I understand why Mike had the idea and the thought of wanting to move on. Now, they could sell this as mutual. Maybe it ended up being mutual. But I think if you had to say who said I wanted out first, I would think it's Mike McCarthy wanting out first before the Dallas Cowboys. Now, a few things here. The Patriots are off the board, so they got Mike Vrabel. They got the bell of the ball. Now the next guy, the next up candidate is Ben Johnson. It seems like Ben Johnson is considering 3 destinations here. I know people have soured on the Jaguars, but if push comes to shove, if Ben Johnson calls up Shad Khan and says, hey, Shad, I want to get rid of Trent Baalke. Shad Khan basically said last week at his press conference, okay, as long as it's not an ego thing and I get an actual valid reason, which, let's be real, it doesn't take much to find a valid reason why Trent Baalke shouldn't be back as the general manager, then I think that Shad Khan would kind of bend the knee to Ben Johnson. He just should have already done it, because at least the feel was up until that announcement to bring back Baalke that a lot of people started to speculate, oh, Ben Johnson to the Jaguars. So that's one team to still watch, even though people have soured on that. The Bears are clearly still a team to watch. I think Bears fans obviously want Ben Johnson. I don't know how much the Bears want Ben Johnson. And I know that sounds crazy, but what do I say all the time? Incompetent organizations make incompetent decisions. And the trio of McCaskey and Poles and Warren, it's, once again, dumb, dumber, and dumbest in whatever order you want. That's what that is. So the other big rumor recently, and I said this when Brady and the Raiders and Mark Davis elected to get rid of Tom Telesco on, I believe, that Tuesday? Or was it Thursday? Last week, so they got rid of Antonio Pierce on Tuesday. And then I think we did the carousel on Thursday. So that's when they got rid of Tom Telesco. And I said, this seems weird. That, yeah, they were late on Antonio Pierce, but then they were really late on Tom Telesco. And the analogy I used was the Raiders are trying to put lipstick on a pig. Because the Raiders looked around, all right, the Bears already have a GM. The Jaguars already have a GM. Right? The Jets, they don't have a GM right now, but that's not a job that Ben Johnson would even take an interview with. So what do the Raiders really have to offer? Brock Bowers and Max Crosby, nice pieces. But you have the 6th overall pick in the draft. Right now, you don't have a quarterback. And outside of just living in Sin City and being able to go to Piero's in Las Vegas, you don't really have a lot to offer if you're the Raiders. So how do you try to get someone to listen? Well, you use Tom Brady to flirt with the head coaching candidate, and you give him a reason to want to come talk to you. And giving him a reason would be selling him off control and power. And, hey, you're all about alignment. Well, we'll let you pick the GM. We'll hire you first, give you the power, and then enable you to pick your GM or sign off on the GM. And now, right, not only is Ben Johnson going to talk to the Raiders, people are losing their minds because coming up this weekend, you have the Commanders and the Lions, and that's a Fox game. Brady's going to be calling the game in Detroit, and people are like, oh, this shouldn't be allowed. Now, Brady, he's not allowed to talk to the teams, I believe. Like the production meetings he's not allowed to be. But he's on the field before these games. He was in Philly the other day, and you got players running up to him. So can Ben Johnson run up to him? Hey, Tom, how you doing? Yeah, I'm sure he can. And they could have a conversation. But I'm not incensed and irate about Brady broadcasting and Brady also being a minority owner. It doesn't bug me the way that it bugs other people. And I understand why it could be a conflict of interest. So I look at the Cowboys now. Do I think the Cowboys could get Ben Johnson? No, I do not. But Ben Johnson is the next domino to fall. And could Jerry maybe make Ben Johnson an offer he can't refuse? I'm sure he could. But all you hear about Ben Johnson is what? He's going to be picky. He's going to be selective. He's not just going to take interviews with any team. And it's alignment. It's the A word. Alignment, alignment, alignment. Well, what alignment is there in the Cowboys organization right now? It's Jerry Jones acts as if he's a real housewife of Dallas, and it's a reality show, and it's a joke. And look at all the crap that Mike McCarthy's had to deal with. Like, you know what? Here's why Ben Johnson won't be the next coach of the Dallas Cowboys. Ben Johnson would talk to Dak Prescott before even contemplating taking that job. And how many times is Dak just, you could tell when he speaks, is just immune and is just numb to all the drama that Jerry Jones stirs up. And that's going to be a flashing red light and a flashing red alarm in the mind of Ben Johnson to say, this is why I'm not taking the job. So where do the Cowboys go from here? I'm actually annoyed that Bill Belichick went to UNC because I think Bill Belichick would have been the next head coach of the Dallas Cowboys. Because Jerry is not willing to get out of the way for many people. He did so for Bill Parcells. So if you did so for Bill Parcells, why wouldn't you at least appear like you want to tango with Bill Belichick? But Bill went back to UNC. The buyout's only $10 million. It falls to $1 million on June 1st. I do believe, though, Bill is in the FU mode when it comes to the NFL right now for at least a season, and he's going to be the coach of UNC next year. And he'll be the head coach of UNC for the 2025 season. After that, I don't know. So I can't believe I'm going to say this, and it pains me to say this. And we'll redo the predictions coming up maybe tomorrow on all the jobs around the NFL. But if you had to give me a job right now or a guess and take a stab at who's going to be the next head coach of the Cowboys, let me preface this by saying I would not hire this individual to be the head football coach of my team. I would not do it. But I think it's going to be Kellen Moore. That's who I think it's going to be. He knows Jerry Jones very well. Jerry Jones can have all the control over Kellen Moore. No one else is hiring Kellen Moore to be their head football coach. Kellen Moore, the last few years, has made a bunch of lateral moves. That's what he's done. Dallas, the Chargers, the Eagles, it's been a bunch of lateral moves. This was a guy that was a hot head coaching candidate a few years ago. And it would be the Cowboy way to hire Kellen Moore because it wouldn't make the most sense. But when it doesn't make the most sense, that's what Jerry Jones loves the most. So right now, first reaction, I think Kellen Moore is going to be the next head football coach of the Dallas Cowboys, and that's disgusting, if I'm just being honest. He should not be the head coach of the Dallas Cowboys. And for McCarthy, you're free. You can get away from the Jerry Jones drama, and I would be calling up the Bears right now and saying, hey, let's sit down and talk. You want to talk to me last week? Let's talk right now. And if the Bears can't get Ben Johnson, I think Mike McCarthy would be a good fit for the Bears. And you know who will also be a good fit for the Bears? Pete Carroll. Like, hey, Bears fans, if you can't get Ben Johnson, what else are you doing? You could talk about Brian Flores. Will he be able to get along with the young quarterback? That's a question. You know, you want an unproven head coach, guy that's ever done it before in Aaron Glenn. The Bears need to get this right. The Bears need respectability. Because if you don't get respectability back, and if you don't become a good football team and you ruin Caleb Williams, we'll never give you the benefit of the doubt again. Pete Carroll is a damn good football coach. He's going to be in the Hall of Fame one day. Say what you want about Mike McCarthy, and Mike McCarthy has some warts, but the guy knows how to win games. And if the Bears could just get to the postseason and be there for a few years and not win games, it's a better situation then than where you are right now. So they need stability. If I'm the Bears and you can't get Ben Johnson, that's the unproven guy that you need to get. If you can't get Ben Johnson and him being a brainiac on the offensive side of the ball, then go with an older head coach that's going to be no nonsense. There's going to be no drama. He has respect right? It will bring some respectability back to that organization and will give you a chance to save Caleb Williams. I would be fine with Mike McCarthy or Pete Carroll as the next head coach of the Chicago Bears if it can't be Ben Johnson. By the way, I watched the entire Mike Vrabel press conference. Stu, you'd be very proud of me because for 20 years I was in the NFL penthouse. I didn't know what it was like to be one of the regular NFL fans because there's not as many fans that get to go to the penthouse. I now get excited for introductory press conferences of a head coach, and I also get really, really excited for the NFL draft, where I'm hoping now that the Patriots get Abdul Carter from Penn State with the 4th overall pick. But I watched that entirety of the press conference, and let me tell you something. This is how I know I'm a regular football fan. And I love Vrabel. Vrabel's the guy I wanted last year. I'm happy they got him this year. He'll bring respectability back to the organization, but I feel like I won the Super Bowl today just by listening to Mike Vrabel say that we're not going to have entitlement amongst our players. And I love that because that defense was entitled this past year, and the wide receiving room, which is a below-average wide receiving room, a.k.a. it sucked this year. They had too many guys that were way too entitled. So you could welcome me to the rest of the football world.
Yeah, introductory press conferences are probably my Super Bowl at this point.
And
I've had a lot of them, double digits.
So what do you think for the Raiders? Are you taking the bait here for Ben Johnson?
Sure, I think it's an option, and if he's interested, that's great. I am still a little skeptical of that. I think he'll ultimately end up somewhere else, but
just out of respect to Brady, he's going to listen, but he won't ultimately take it.
Yeah, I kind of think it's going to be Carroll.
You do?
That's where my head is heading at this point. I think Carroll's the leader in the clubhouse, if you will.
I think Brady's got to make a big name hire. Now, it's not going to be Coach Prime. People will throw out Coach Prime for the Cowboys. People throw out Coach Prime for the Raiders. If Coach Prime's going to go anywhere, I could see Jerry doing it, but he's going to want to coach both of his sons. I think Deion's staying at Colorado for this upcoming season. But Brady almost has to get a big name here. I don't think it's going to be Mike McCarthy. Let me just say that. I think Carroll's in play. I think Ben Johnson's in play. And then outside of that, if you don't get those two guys, then the next, it's not a huge name, right? It's an interesting storyline. Maybe a Brian Flores just because the Brady connection. But I think you are right in saying that. If they don't get Ben Johnson, then Brady could make a nice hire in Pete Carroll to just bring some stability to that organization for the last chapter of Pete Carroll's career. So that's where we're at right now with some of these head coaching searches that are going around the NFL. The Cowboys have joined the party. We'll see when McCarthy lands, and we'll see who's coaching the Cowboys. Right now, I would say it's Kellen Moore. All righty, the Eagles win, but it was ugly. And A.J. Brown was reading a book on the sideline. I've never seen anything like that. We'll get into that whole situation when we return in 5 minutes.
You're in a 5-minute break. Four minutes, 30 seconds remaining. Four minutes remaining. Three minutes, 30 seconds remaining. 3 minutes remaining. Two minutes, 30 seconds remaining. Two minutes remaining. One minute, 30 seconds remaining. One minute remaining. .45 seconds remaining. .30 seconds remaining. .15 seconds. Break ends in 5 seconds.
You're listening to the Zach Gelb Show on the Infinity Sports Network.
So when I was at the Eagles game yesterday, I had a very good time in the press box, and I was seated right next to former, at the time, CBS Sports Radio host, which we are now the Infinity Sports Network, John Kincaid, who now does Morning Drive in Philadelphia, 97.5, The Fanatic. Now, John and I guess I'll be one of these people, way back in the day, would go back and forth, on the radio. He was doing the 6 to 10 a.m. Eastern time shift on Saturday mornings, I believe, and I was doing 2 to 6 a.m. Eastern time Friday into Saturday. And John and I would always throw some friendly fire jabs. Sometimes there was a little bit behind it, if we're being honest, and other times they were not. So it was good to reconnect with John Kincaid. And we're sitting there, we're watching the game, we're talking all throughout the game. And at halftime, I look down at the stat sheet, and I see there's basically no stats for A.J. Brown. And I said, John, I go, you want my take for the second half? If A.J. Brown doesn't play well, just monitor A.J. Brown. There's going to be some incident with A.J. Brown. Because I remember being in Philadelphia a few years ago, Eagles-Giants playoff game. That was the year that the Giants beat the Vikings in the first round with Daniel Jones. And then they got smacked around by the Eagles in round number 2 on divisional round weekend. So I see a TV shot of A.J. Brown, and then I see John Clark from NBC Sports Philadelphia, who has been obviously covering Philadelphia sports for so many years. He's like a staple of Philadelphia. And I hear John Clark say, "What is that in AJ's hands?" And I'm just seeing AJ smiling like, it looks like there's a little bit of an animated discussion, but it's tough when, you're in the seat and it's on the opposite sideline. There is TV monitors, but you're looking up, you're squinting, trying to see what's happening. And then I hear John Clark goes, "Is that a book? Is that a book in A.J. Brown's hands?" And it was. A.J. Brown was reading on the sideline during a playoff game. Now, I don't cover the Eagles on a daily basis. Like, I'm not always there. It has since come out that has happened before, but no one knew about it. Like, this is the first time it has been brought to our attention. I saw Jahan Dotson, who caught a touchdown yesterday. He put out a photo earlier today of A.J. Brown in the game up against the Commanders where he played well, having the book out, reading it on the sideline. Now, my question was it before the game? When it wasn't, did he have any catches? Because I'm watching that. And, Stu, you're kind of an expert of diva wide receivers. You've had quite a few. Now, Antonio Brown may be the ultimate diva wide receiver with some of the things that he fought Mike Mayock. Didn't he, freeze his feet or something going into one of those chambers, whatever it was called?
He did.
Yeah, so there was a lot of craziness with one Antonio Brown, and then he recorded that conversation that ended up getting him released from the Raiders.
Didn't even play a regular season game with the Raiders.
No, he didn't. And he walked right to the Patriots. And I remember Ben Horowitz, our buddy that used to produce me back then, the Patriots, week one they played the Steelers. And they got Antonio Brown prior to that game, but he wasn't eligible yet because they got him of week, and it was the first game of the season that Thursday night. And Ben goes up. The season's already over. The Patriots have won. I'm like, I wouldn't be so sure about that. And Antonio Brown played one game, scored a touchdown up against the Dolphins, and then the Patriots released him shortly after that. So A.J. Brown is on the sideline reading. When you first see that, Stu, before having any of the context now, which it's not as if it makes it totally okay, A.J. Brown did nothing wrong. What are you thinking of in that moment?
Diva wide receiver is not happy that he is not getting the ball a lot, so he is reading a book on the sidelines.
And that's the thing to me. You're in a playoff game that you got to keep your emotions in check, and you're winning. The Eagles were never going to lose that game. It wasn't pretty. Jalen Hurts did not play great in that game. A.J. Brown did not have a good game. A.J. Brown's also not 100% right now. So it was ugly. So I knew going into that locker room after the game that was a big story. Right? Big story. And I'm sitting there listening to A.J. Brown speak. And it was all over the place. He couldn't get the passage right that he was reading. He's talking about, he reads that even when he's down or even when he's happy. So I'm just sitting there, and I asked him the simple question of, were you frustrated when you were reading the book? So that's all I did. Now, you'll get some sycophants, right? Misleading question. No, it's a fair question. I didn't walk into that locker room with any agenda. I didn't even know if I was going to ask a question. But I knew I was going to go to A.J. Brown's locker because that was going to be a story, right? They're talking about the broadcast on Fox. We're making our way to the locker room. The name of the book comes out, and I see the Amazon sales have skyrocketed. They should have a book club in Philadelphia coming up on Sunday with either the Rams or the Vikings coming into town. Every one of those fans should bring one of those books and have a little fun with it. But I'm just sitting there listening to what A.J. Brown was saying, and I listen. I do my homework. I listen. I hear what the player's saying, and just naturally I'm sitting there, I'm saying, I wonder if he was frustrated. So here was the minute and plus exchange with A.J. Brown in the locker room.
Y'all just caught me that time. I'm doing it every drive, regardless of, like I said, if I score a touchdown or drop a pass, it's somehow I refocus.
Is there a certain passage that you read from it?
Yes, I always revert back to the beginning of the book. It states, if you can just have a clear mind, and let me see, what does it say? If you have a clear mind and remember that nothing else matters, clear mind and clear consciousness. Nothing matters, negative or positive. You're willing to take risks. And I go back to it, and it also says if you're humble, you can't be embarrassed. So no matter what happens, like in the game or whatever happens, I'm just gonna stay free. Play free. Keep going, take risks. So.
How do you think? Were you frustrated when you were reading the book?
No, I was not frustrated at all. I figured that's what y'all probably thought. I wasn't frustrated. Why y'all always think I'd be frustrated? I read the book. I read the book. Yeah, I like to read.
So that answer to me tells me he was frustrated. Because if you weren't frustrated, you would never think that people would believe that you were frustrated. And let me be clear here. If I'm A.J. Brown, and if that's what I need to read this book and get some motivational words, if you're in a tough time, yeah, I get the optics of it. The drama doesn't look good. I've never seen a player sit down on the bench of the sideline, even though I guess he's done this before. I saw a photo for the Commanders game, and read a book. But if that's what you need to get into a good headspace, okay, I'm fine with it. But you definitely were frustrated in the game. So that's the story right there with A.J. Brown. That Eagles offense did not play well yesterday. Jalen Hurts looked like a quarterback who hasn't played in 3 weeks, coming off the concussion that he suffered up against the Commanders. They got to be better, because if they have that offensive effort coming up this weekend, even though they should be favored up against the Rams or the Vikings, they'll lose that game. They will lose that game if that's the way that offense plays, because that offense wasn't up to par. Now, the defense did a kick-ass job. Jalen Carter is unbelievable. Zach Bond had the big interception. They lose to Kobe Dean, who's had a breakout season. Now he's going to be done for the season, which is a shame. Darius Slay had a nice interception in the game as well. So they did a good job on defense. But now the offense has to deliver up against either Minnesota, and Minnesota has a good defense, and the Rams, I don't want to say they have a great defense, but they have some good defensive players with Braden Fisk and Jared Verse as well, and Kobe Turner too. So, hey, this time of the year, it only matters if you win. It doesn't matter how you win. But that Eagles offense, if they want to get back to a Super Bowl and win a Super Bowl, they need more from their quarterback, and they need more from A.J. Brown as well, outside of just reading a book on the bench. Now, as funny as it was hearing A.J. Brown try to describe what he was reading and basically have no clue what he was reading as he was stumbling through that, this was the dry, I don't want to give an answer, but I thought it was humorous from the quarterback in Jalen Hurts. And I'll be completely transparent here. I didn't even realize this was this funny in the moment, because I heard Jalen basically gives you no answers anyway. He's just right down the middle. But Marcus Hayes of the Philadelphia Inquirer was sitting next to me, and he goes, "Did you hear that Jalen Hurts answer?" I go, "Yeah, there wasn't much. There wasn't a lot to it." He goes, "No, listen back to it." And when I listened back to it, I started laughing. You got it right in the beginning. That's what the funny part is. This is Jalen Hurts getting asked about A.J. Brown reading a book on the bench during a playoff game.
I've never seen him read. I've seen the book in his hands. Everybody has a different thing and finds their flow in different ways. So that's how he chooses to do it.
That's the best part. I've never seen him read. I've just seen the book in his hands. And then judging by A.J. Brown's answer, even though he's highlighted and since shared passages and all that stuff, I don't even know if he was reading as well. If it was just a prop on the sideline. But it is, right? Motivational words, and if that's what he needs to get the encouragement to not freak out on the sideline, I guess I'm good with it. But, man, that was funny. Now, my other takeaway from that game on the Packers side, because, right, you saw this weekend Jordan Love not play well. It's tough for me to crush Jordan Love because they walked into that game. I thought the Eagles were going to win like 27-17. Is my favorite bet of the weekend. Eagles laying 4.5. But I look back at that Jordan Love performance, how many injuries they suffered. Going in without Watson, you have 2 wide receivers leave the game during the game and have to get taken off. They need a number 1 wide receiver. And we talked about this with Mason Crosby last week. Like, T. Higgins would be perfect for them. Maybe you got a little reunion with Devontae Adams as well. That would have to be done via trade. I don't know if that's going to happen. Devontae Adams at least open to it. But it's time for the Packers, if they want to take that next step, they have to go out there and get a number 1 wide receiver. Because they tried the receiver by committee this year, and it just wasn't good enough. Jordan Love, right? He still got work to do, but they didn't take that next step this year like many people thought they were going to be capable of doing. All right, it is Zach Gelb Show on the Infinity Sports Network. We'll come on back. We'll update you some of the biggest stories in the world of sports with some audio. We will get to a news brief next. Update time first. Here's the Act Man, Rich Ackerman.
Infinity Sports Network Sports Flash.
One coach in, another out. Mike Vrabel was introduced in Foxborough. At the same time, the Cowboys and Mike McCarthy parted ways, unable to come to terms on the length of an extension. He had led Dallas to the playoffs 3 times in 5 seasons, had 3 12-win seasons, and already had some interest from the Bears, who were denied permission to talk to him last week, but now can do so beginning tomorrow night at midnight. The Rams and Vikings will complete the weekend of NFL playoff action tonight in Arizona. They are there to play a football game, but with heavy hearts and thoughts to those affected by the wildfires in Los Angeles, the tragedy close to the heart of Southern California native Kevin O'Connell. And tonight, an emotional game for the Vikes head coach, not only because of the news of the week, but also because of his friendship with former coach and boss Sean McVay. It hasn't been easy this past week, but the Rams coach is thankful for all the Cardinals organization has done for the people of Arizona.
Incredible hospitality by Mr. Bidwell and the Cardinals organization. You know, a lot of people deserve a ton of credit for making this as seamless and as smooth as it's been. We were able to get here, and, you know, I think it's a real credit to our organization as well.
The NBA is also back in L.A. tonight. The Lakers host the Spurs. The Clippers take on the Heat. I'm Rich Ackerman.
The Infinity Sports Network is on your smart speaker. All you have to say is, play Infinity Sports Network.
You're in a 5-minute break. Four minutes, 30 seconds remaining. Four minutes remaining. Three minutes, 30 seconds remaining. Three minutes remaining. Two minutes, 30 seconds remaining. Two minutes remaining. 1 minute, 30 seconds remaining. One minute remaining. Forty-five seconds remaining. Thirty seconds remaining. Fifteen seconds. Break ends in 5 seconds.
Time for your daily news brief. We get you caught up on the rumors, reports, and reconnaissance from the day in sports.
Alrighty, Zach Gelb Show, Infinity Sports Network news brief time. It was a successful year one for Jim Harbaugh in LA, just with a rotten ending. They were a 3-point favorite in H-Town up against the Texans, and they lost the game by 20 points. Justin Herbert threw not one, not two, not three, but 4 interceptions. Jim Harbaugh, what went wrong with Justin Herbert?
He's got to be able to finish a throwing motion. Quarterback's got to be able to do that. And we didn't put him in the position to do that enough.
So I kind of had no expectation for the Chargers this year. And as I said, they exceeded my expectations. But I was so intrigued by this Justin Herbert Jim Harbaugh relationship because he was finally getting a professional coach. Like Brandon Staley just wasn't that. So year one, successful. Now year two, that's where the pressure really goes on Justin Herbert. Because you could at least walk away from this season and say, hey, even though it was a really bad game, you could see the good that Jim Harbaugh has done for Justin Herbert. They went beyond what you thought they were capable of doing. But when your best wide receiver is Ladd McConkey, who I really like, that's a problem. Ladd McConkey can't be your best skill position player. So Herbert has every right to say, let's go get a number one bona fide wide receiver this offseason. But once you get that number one wide receiver, there's no more excuses for Justin Herbert. What Justin Herbert did yesterday, even without a number one wide receiver on Saturday, was inexcusable. You can't have 4 interceptions in that game when you're paid $50-something million a year. So now he has to go get a number one wide receiver. Once that happens, there's no more coaching excuses. There's no more lack of talent excuse that has been out there within the last few years. Here's Justin Herbert on throwing 4 picks in that wild card loss to the Texans.
Yeah, it's tough. I let the team down, and you can't turn over the ball like that and expect to win and put the team into a tough position there with 4 turnovers like that. So, the defense hung tough. They got some turnovers. They gave us opportunities, but I just have to be better.
Yeah, he's got to be better, and he knows it. But now it's enough with talking about it. We got to go see it when the time is right for the Los Angeles Chargers next year. Alrighty, C.J. Stroud. I felt good for the Texans this weekend because that first half, it looked like they were going to just have a disappointing performance, and it was going to end what was like a waste of a season where, yeah, you're back in the playoffs. Yeah, you have another home playoff game. Yeah, you won the division once again, but you were supposed to take that next step. Now, the Texans ended up winning that game. C.J. Stroud, who did not play well in the first half, was surgical in the second half. And this is the ultimate go get a big win, go prove that you're ready to take that next step, which you haven't been able to do this year. If you could do it this upcoming weekend up against the Kansas City Chiefs on Saturday at 4:30. I'm not expecting that to be the case if they get the job done, but it was good to see C.J. Stroud play well. Here is C.J. Stroud on silencing all the critics.
All the adversity this year has really made me not only a better football player, but a better just human, a better man of God. And, I don't take it lightly. I think people always see our mountaintops, but, one thing that people don't understand are valleys too, times of just going through it. And in my life, I'm very grateful for both.
Thought he was going to start singing Ain't No Valley High, Ain't No Valley Low. That's what I thought we were about to get from C.J. Stroud. But you didn't silence your critics. Like, yes, you won a game that people didn't think you could win. But beating the Chargers, it's a good win. We thought you could be a big boy team, though, this year. And you go take down the Chiefs this weekend. That's the big boy victory that says, okay, the Texans, even with some of their shortcomings this year, have taken that next step and are ready to be a bona fide Super Bowl contender. Josh Allen and the Buffalo Bills, they are moving on. They crushed the Broncos after the Broncos got a nice touchdown by Bo Nix right out of the gate. Here is Josh Allen on beating the Broncos.
Ultimately, it's not the X's and O's, it's the Jimmies and Joes, and guys are ready to go. We got our rest, getting able to kind of not play everybody that last game. Guys were refreshed, and again, we're going to need to get our rest this week, and we had a really, really good Baltimore Ravens team coming here. They put the thumping on us earlier in the year, and we know that, we understand that. So, again, it's the most important game because it's the next one.
So Saturday afternoon, you're going to see Texans and Chiefs. Saturday evening, you're going to see Commanders Lions. Then on Sunday, the first game will be Philadelphia up against either the Rams or the Vikings. And then Sunday night, I think it's at 6:30, you're going to see the Buffalo Bills go up against the Baltimore Ravens in Orchard Park. And on paper, Bills-Ravens MVP conversation, that's the game of the weekend. So it's going to be a fun one between the Ravens and the Bills. But the season really starts for Buffalo now, and so for the Baltimore Ravens as well. Matt LaFleur on Jordan Love's shaky game up against the Eagles.
There were a couple times where we had guys open, and when one ball gets batted at the line of scrimmage, it just there was sometimes we didn't have great protection. So I think it was a multitude of things throughout the course of the game that led to a poor performance in the pass game.
Yeah, the injuries are also a major killer. Like, I know they didn't play well, but you're without Watson. Josh Jacobs got dinged up during the game. You lose two other wide receivers as well. When Kraft is your tight end and he's like your best weapon at that point, that's a problem for the Green Bay Packers. So it wasn't a good year for them in the way that we thought it was going to be, but I really do believe they have to get a number one genuine wide receiver. Here is Baker Mayfield. So this was right after the Bucs defense made another stop up against the Commanders. The Commanders, it looked like, they were leaving too many points on the field as they just weren't able to convert when they got inside the 10-yard line. But then Baker Mayfield had a little exchange issue. There was a fumble, and the Commanders on fourth down were able to put the ball in the end zone. Here's Baker Mayfield on that fourth quarter fumble.
That comes back to me, just timing it up correctly. First one all year that happened on, so obviously timing of it not great, being backed up. Defense had just done a hell of a job getting us the ball, and just some dumb stuff today that cost the team. So it's that's going to wear on me for a while.
Stu, how do you walk away looking at this Buccaneer season, just wondering after they lost in the first round of the playoffs?
I would say pretty successful. They made the playoffs. I didn't think they were a playoff team coming in, so I think it's a successful season.
Yeah, so do I. So there's different expectations and standards. The Steelers have been in the postseason consistently for a while. Their last 5 playoff games in the first half have been terrible. They haven't won a playoff game since 2017. You look at the Bucs the last 2 years, people last year thought the Saints were the team to beat in that division. This year, people thought it was the Falcons. They won the division both years. Do I think they're anywhere close to contending for a Super Bowl? No. But when you look at their roster, Baker Mayfield's good. He's not great, but he's good. Mike Evans is a stud. Bucky Irving had a breakout season. And their defense is solid. Their defense wasn't what it usually has been, but they had some changing pieces this year. So I think it's fine. It just had a disappointing ending. And I know some will call for Todd Bowles to be fired. I don't think he should be fired. I think he should be brought back as the coach of the Buccaneers. Let's go to Jaden Daniels and the big win as the Commanders are moving on to the second round.
I don't know. I can't really explain it. Obviously, I'm grateful to have the opportunity. I'm happy for the fan base, the franchise, everything it's been through to get to this point. So I'll just say, I'm just grateful and happy for everybody, including myself too.
It's unbelievable. Right now, that's the best story in the NFL. Can the Bills surpass it with the Super Bowl victory? Absolutely. Can the Lions surpass it with the Super Bowl victory? Absolutely. And can Lamar Jackson surpass it with the Super Bowl victory? Absolutely. But what the Commanders have done this year is so special. All righty. Let me play you George Pickens here again. We played this earlier in the show. This is George Pickens on if he's seen some improvements the last few years since joining the Pittsburgh Steelers.
Yeah, I've seen signs of growth for sure. From past, the first year I've been here, just way more growth for sure.
Does that make you optimistic going forward?
Nah.
That's amazing. That's maybe better if you look at diva wide receiver against diva wide receiver than A.J. Brown bringing a book to the Eagles sideline and then basically asking, well, what are you reading? And then stumbling through that for 45 seconds in the locker room after the game. Or Jalen Hurts saying, I've seen A.J. with the book in his hands. I've never seen him read it. But you hear George Pickens right there. Yeah, I've seen signs of growth. Well, have those signs of growth make you optimistic for the future? Nah.
Nah.
That's amazing. Finally, here's Mike Tomlin. What will the Steelers do at quarterback next year?
Take a big picture approach. I'm really assessing what happened today, man, and I'm certainly appreciative of their efforts tonight. But I could say that largely for the entire season. They're 3 quality people at the quarterback position, man, and really appreciate what they poured into this.
Whole team's a mess right now, and they've just been stuck where they're not horrible, but they're not great, and they could go win 9 to 12 games, and they don't do much after that. They haven't won a playoff game since January of 2017, and their last 5 playoff games, they haven't been prepared. Mike Tomlin's under contract through 2027. No one's going to tell you he's a bad coach. He is a good coach, but it feels like we're getting close to that expiration date. And I'll just give him the edict of this in the next 2 years. They need to find a way to either win a playoff game or find a franchise quarterback. And if they can't do that in the next 2 years, then I wouldn't even let them see 2027. You get 2025, 2026. I know the contract is up after 2027. If he can't give me one of those 2 things in the next 2 years, a playoff victory or a franchise quarterback, then I would say goodbye to Mike Tomlin, even though he's a really good coach. And it could be best for both parties. You could move forward with the Steelers and, bring in that next guy to get you back to a Super Bowl winning team. And then for Mike Tomlin, you get gobbled up and maybe go to a place that has something better at the quarterback position. But we'll have to see. Zach Gelb Show, Infinity Sports Network. Willie Colon coming up next.
You're in a 5-minute break. Four minutes, 30 seconds remaining. Four minutes remaining. Three minutes, 30 seconds remaining. Three minutes remaining. 2 minutes, 30 seconds remaining. Two minutes remaining. One minute, 30 seconds remaining. One minute remaining. Forty-five seconds remaining. Seconds remaining. Fifteen seconds. Break ends in 5 seconds.
To infinity and beyond.
He's live. He's nationwide. This is the Zach Gelb Show. Here's your host, Zach Gelb.
All righty, hour number 3 of our radio program. That's right, it is the Zach Gelb Show on the Infinity Sports Network. We should have Super Bowl champion Willie Colon coming up momentarily. What a crazy weekend it was, just with storylines in the NFL. Justin Herbert threw 4 interceptions. Texans advanced to the second round. You saw the Ravens just absolutely dominate up against the Pittsburgh Steelers. The Steelers still haven't won a playoff game since January of 2017, which is wild when you look back at it. And then you get to the games from yesterday. Buffalo, a little bit of a slow start, but then they beat up on the Denver Broncos. Philadelphia, offense wasn't great, but they take care of business led by their defense going up against the Green Bay Packers. And last night, what just mayhem and craziness with the Commanders and Buccaneers. And then Gonzalez has the field goal go off the upright and in, and the Washington Commanders get the job done. And then when you take a glance in the coaching world, you have Mike McCarthy, we thought was going to be back as the Cowboys head coach, and that is not the case. The Cowboys and Mike McCarthy are not going to renew this thing, and Mike McCarthy is a free man, and we'll see where he does wind up. So all this craziness, Patriots to announce Mike Vrabel as well. He was introduced today as their head football coach, and we have 6 jobs now that we're waiting to see what's going to happen. Let's go out to the guest line right now. Welcoming a man that played for the Pittsburgh Steelers, won a Super Bowl with them, also played with the New York Jets as well. Does a great job for SNY and FS1. That is former NFL offensive lineman Willie Colon. Willie, appreciate the time as always. How you been, my man?
Hey, what's up, brother?
I'm doing fantastic. Can't complain. We'll see what happens tonight in the final wild card game. But I got to start you off with your Steelers. And they haven't won a playoff game
God.
since January of 2017. They're getting embarrassed in these first halves, especially the last 5 playoff games. Where are you at right now with the state of the Steelers?
Where am I at? I'm salty. I mean, I'm pissed off. Like, I don't even know. I'm still processing the game. Listen, I thought the first half of that game they were asleep. And what's interesting, like I said to myself going into that game, if the Steelers just don't look predictable and they come out swinging, and the longer the game goes, the better they have a shot of coming out the building with the dub. And the first play is a flea flicker, and I'm like, great, it's not a run, right? Finally, all right? And then it's a flea flicker, and Russ has 2 options. Both options were good, right? I think it was like a seam post that breaks loose. He's one-on-one with the safety, then the other one was up the sideline. All he has to do is just let it go, and I'm fine with either option. I would have took the post because the safety was actually behind him there, and he holds on to the ball for a sack. And I'm like, well, that was underwhelming, right? Because prior to that, the Ravens pretty much told you what type of game it was going to be. We're going to run this ball down your throat. I thought the Steelers had a semi-smart game plan. They weren't going to let Derrick Henry go off. He went off anyway. They weren't going to let – I just felt like after they scored the first touchdown, the flea flicker was a great answer. Russ had the shot. He didn't take it. He got sacked. And it was like womp, womp, womp. The whole first half of the damn game. And I was like, man, like what the – like even Herb Street, Zach, Herb Street made the comment, I'm waiting for the Steelers to show up. And a good indicator of the Steelers-Ravens rivalry is the chippiness after the play, right? Like there's always that level of intensity, like the teams really don't like each other. That never showed up. It was almost like they got tired of looking at each other. One team was ready to lay down, and the other team was like, well, we got to play you, so we're going to beat the hell out of you. And I'm just like, this isn't what I grew into. And it was just even the fourth. I know I'm tell you I'm still salty. You're the only person I've been able to vent this to for the last 48 hours. So if I'm on a rant, excuse me.
Go ahead.
But even the fourth and inches, it was crazy. The whole first half, I'm on the phone with Bart Scott, and we're going through it play by play. And I'm like, how does Tomlin not go for it on 4th and inches here? And he's like, no, you can't do that. You're only down 7. I'm like, it's the Steelers. When haven't been able to get an inch, a yard? We got Najee Harris, and we got Jalen. Like, it doesn't matter. And so I'm sorry. I'm still emotional about it.
No, but here's the thing. So I love that you brought up the Herb Street point, because right before halftime he goes, this is not who the Pittsburgh Steelers are. But it now is. It now is. $126-38, they've been outscored in the first half of the last 5 playoff games. And you're not going to like this. Steelers fans won't like it, but it's the truth. They have turned into the 2011 through 2015 Cincinnati Bengals. They get 9 to 12 wins a season. They show up in the postseason, and then they go home right away. They don't win a playoff game. That's who they are now.
I guess. I really don't have nothing to say to that because I'm biased. I played for the organization. I bled black and gold forever, so I don't want to hear that come out of your mouth.
But it's true.
But the facts, as you just stated, are the facts. What made me more, I guess, pissed off about the game wasn't just a lack of, I guess, response to the physicality and what Baltimore wanted to play, is that we never adjusted defensively. Like, we just never. We just kind of, it was just like it was like, we know who they are, but you still got to play the game. You got to adjust. If you're not going to take away Derrick Henry and you're going to allow Lamar to kind of do what he wants, like I would have forced Lamar to throw me out of that game. I would have forced his arm to beat me. Like we never made that decision. Like we know the Steelers play a lot of cover one. I thought we had to win the one-on-ones as far as man coverage, but I also felt like we should have lit them up. Like we should have been blitz happy. And we should have went. I don't know. I just felt like we played on our heels the whole first half. And offensively, man, I felt like we should have spread them out and absolutely dink and dunk their butts and screen games and take bigger shots down the field. The second half, I felt like we woke up and we had a couple big plays. I know Van Jefferson had the 30-yard touchdown.
But it was too late by then.
But it was, yeah. Like when half a Steeler Nation tucked their terrible towels and hit the parking lot.
Willie Colon here with us. I know you love Tomlin. I know you played for him, so this is a tough question. But when you have won a playoff game since January of 2017, and this is the Pittsburgh frickin' Steelers for crying out loud, is it time to just move on from Coach Tomlin?
No, it's dumb. It's dumb. Like, what? Okay, then who? Then who, Zach?
It's a great question. I'm not going to sit here and say Mike McCarthy, but, hey, Philadelphia, they got rid of Andy Reid, and eventually they got Doug Peterson in there, and they won a Super Bowl again. So right now, I'm not saying fire Mike Tomlin today, to be clear, and his contract's through 2027. This is what I would say. You got 2 years. Forget that your contract says 3 years. You got 2 years. You either got to win a playoff game or you got to find the franchise quarterback. And if you can't do one of those two things in the next 2 years, everyone has an expiration date in this league. Like Bill Belichick got fired. We've seen Andy Reid get fired before. It's to me, Tomlin got to be held to a high standard. You're the coach of the Steelers.
Yeah, but last 3 years with Bill Belichick looked like an absolute, they looked like the bad news Bears. Like they just weren't good. They just didn't look like once Brady, took it down to Tampa, you couldn't even recognize the Patriots. You can still recognize the Pittsburgh Steelers. Like offensively, they've lacked the identity. I agree with that. Defensively, they just kind of tailed that, which happens with top defense, right? They start off really good, and towards the end, because of injuries, whatever, they fall apart a little bit. However, I just don't think getting rid of Mike Tomlin is the answer. I do agree with saying from an organizational standpoint, like we got to find ourselves a top tier quarterback. Right, I don't know who that is, what that looks like, because Russ is in his 30s, right? Valley, he still wants to play, and it looks like he wants to make a home out of Pittsburgh. But nevertheless, there's nothing behind him for us to kind of say, all right, the future's in good hands. So you got to make a play here. And they're always going to be good enough where they're not going to be able to draft in the top 10. And they're always kind of going to be in that kind of limbo situation. So, but replacing Mike Tomlin is that's not what the Steelers do. They only have 3 coaches in the whole damn history of the organization. So it lets you know that's not what they do. I do think right now you got to find out for the future. And I don't know. I don't think Justin Fields is the future for the Steelers. I'm just put that out there. I think he's a good, serviceable quarterback. I think he's at this point in his career where he may be a bridge quarterback. I think that's an honest assumption of who he is right now. And I think you just got to find how. Listen, we may have to make a play, and I don't know what that looks like to try to go get us a top tier quarterback. So when we play the Joe Burrows and the Josh Allens and the Lamar Jacksons, we don't look like we're a grade lower than the quarterback on the other side.
It's actually the worst spot to be in, and I know you may not agree with this as a former player because you want to win the games, but they're not close to being great, but they're also not close to being bad.
Right.
And you get stuck there in that 9 to 11 win range, and then you can't go early in the draft and get a Jaden Daniels or get one of these younger quarterbacks like a CJ Stroud. It's a tough fix really right now.
Yeah, but if you ask Jets fans, they'll be there. They will gladly be in that. Oh my God. Happily be in that position as Steelers. Happily.
What do you think right now, Willie Colon, for the Jets? Who do you think is going to be their next head coach?
I think Aaron Glenn. I honestly think so. I think Aaron has done a great job of promoting who he is as a coach. We all know who he was as a ball player, extremely smart, talented, scrappy, did a hell of a job playing for the Jets when I think Parcells was at the helm. But I also think I go back to what he was able to do from a coaching standpoint this year. This year with the Detroit Lions, they were riddled with injuries, man. And he was able to put some game plans together with some guys literally coming off the street and go to battle. Obviously, the Buffalo game, they got blown out the water, but nevertheless, he's been able to do a hell of a job. And I think when you listen to a lot of guys talk about him from a testimony standpoint, he's evolved into what you want your head coach to look like right now. Young enough to understand what the times, what times are. Obviously having a great insight on how to prepare and build a staff and on and on and on. But also, guys want to listen to guys who played football.
Yeah.
We don't want to listen to guys who picked up a dummies for me, shit off Amazon, and then you're like, oh, okay, I guess you're right. Like the reason why Dan Campbell could stand in the room in front of men and have that moxie and that confidence and that bravado and talk all the things he wants to say, because every guy in that locker room could turn on a highlight tape of Dan Campbell being an absolute badass on the field. from multiple organizations. And on top of that, being a coach for 11 or 12 years before he got the nod. So both sides balance out. He played the game, he coached the game, and now he's the guy. He's the ringmaster. So, and he's been, I think him and Ray Agnew have done a hell of a job of turning around the narrative about Detroit. I mean, they're gritty, they're tough. If you're a fat offensive lineman right now and you had your choice to play for an NFL team, yeah,
Detroit.
Send me to the Lions. I get to catch the football. I get to literally run for a touchdown. Or you like those are things. Those are only options when I was playing. If we were up by 40, and the playoffs were already clinched.
Mm-hmm.
These guys are doing that at week 8. I'm like, why wouldn't you want to be a damn Lion? So I love everything Detroit got going. I love Detroit. I love Dan Campbell. Everything.
What did you make, Willie Colon, of A.J. Brown with the book on the sideline yesterday?
It's dumb. Zach, come on. What are you doing? They have apps. They have Calm apps. They got all that stuff. Do that before the game. You're playing the Green Bay Packers. If I was on the other sideline and saw that, I'm going after A.J. Brown. It's disrespectful, right? And then it shows that you're not tapped in because obviously you're not getting the touches or the attention you want during that game. The inner peace, come on, bro. You're at home. You've been off. It's enough with the nonsense with A.J. Brown. You're the guy. You're the star wide receiver for the Philadelphia Eagles. It comes with a certain decorum and a certain kind of moxie to play one in that offense and be a part of that city. If I don't know what will cause you to bring out that book, but if you feel like you got to temper your emotions, man, put a towel over your head, take a couple deep breaths, count to 10. But to whip out a book just felt like it seemed like he was grabbing for attention, and he got it. I couldn't imagine me sitting in the playoff game looking at my right guard, and he pulled out Othello, bro. What?
Willie Colon here with us. I never thought we'd have that sentence uttered on this radio show, but it was absolutely awesome that you just did so. When you get inside the AFC, where do you lean now? Ravens, Bills, early preview. The game's not until Sunday. Who do you think's going to win that game?
I got the Ravens. The Bills look good, man. I got it. They're physical. They play fast. I thought they got healthy at the right time. Going into that Denver game, it was strength versus strength because I think for the Broncos in 7 straight games they had 28 sacks, and in the seven straight games for the Bills they only gave up 1 sack. So I'm like, ooh, okay, this is going to be something. And then I just watched Josh Allen, and I watched the rest of that team absolutely put the Broncos in a baby seat and drive around the corner and just tuck them away. All right, thanks for coming out. Take them, take your tails back to Mile High. They were just a class above the Broncos in every facet. Special teams, defensively. Josh Allen looked like a true MVP, even though I would still give it to Lamar. But yeah, they just dominated the game. And I also thought, the Broncos don't run the ball well. They didn't run the ball well all season. And I thought if somehow they can figure out how to get that going, even if they had designed runs with Bo Nix, they have a shot. That never happened, and Josh Allen just dominated, man. That whole team and Mac Hollins, man, he's like the Randy Savage of the group. He's feisty, you know what I mean? He's just wild.
No shoes.
They got it. Yeah, they just kicked Denver's broad. But I listen. I remember when Denver went into Buffalo last year with Russell Wilson and won on a Monday night game. Show up Payton at head coach, and I said to myself, why not? Why can't they do it again? I thought their defense, the defense had 63 sacks on the season. Why couldn't they kind of, I thought Van Joseph, I thought that whole defense was going to be ready for the fight. It was over early. And it is what it is.
Last thing I'll ask you, Willie Colon. So the big news today, Cowboys, Mike McCarthy, he's not coming back. To me, this is a breakup.
A blessing.
Yeah. It's a breakup where Mike McCarthy dealt with a toxic girl, and he goes, okay, it's time to get out of the relationship after 4 or 5 years. And I really think he was the first one to say he wanted out, but now they put the Instagram post out there that this was mutual. I think McCarthy could wind up as the next coach of the Bears, and I don't like what the Cowboys are going to do here. I think the Cowboys are going to hire Kellen Moore, and I think that's a terrible hire.
If I'm Ryan Poles, the GM for the Bears, I'm going to get me a new offensive line, and I'm going to Mike McCarthy's house with a U-Haul, some Chicago-style pizza, and we're going to Chicago. There's no way I'm letting him take another job because you know one thing out of Mike McCarthy, he gets the best out of quarterbacks. He's already had 3 12-win seasons, right? And whatever you feel about him, yeah, he's not the most exciting coach, but he knows how to coach quarterbacks. You just put the whole franchise in Caleb Williams' hands. He needs development. I like Caleb Williams. They just need an offensive line. He got sacked damn near 67 times this year, right? They gave a lot of money to the, I think, right guard Nate Davis, who turned out to be a total bust for him, even though there was a lot of red flags around the guy. Revamp that offensive line, keep that defense together, get Caleb Williams some help. You got head coach Mike McCarthy. They will be in the playoffs next year. I think they got enough talent on that side of the ball, offensively and defensively. They can make hay. But I think Mike McCarthy is smart. Like, why would you go into an offseason with Jerry Jones and everything how he controls? He's the puppet master when it comes to the media.
Yeah.
Why would you leave out the narrative like, oh well, you know, with the season amongst with the offseason here, we got to figure out what we want to do. No, you don't got to figure it out. I'm leaving. I'm done. I did the best I could. It wasn't good enough. I had 2/5 of my offensive line were rookies. You didn't get me a running back, right? That got hurt. Defensively, you let go Dan Quinn, and it was just a shell of himself until Branch and Parsons came back, right? Like, I'm done. I did all I could. Thanks, Jerry. Take your barbecue, big cowboy hats. I'm going back north. Like that's what I'm doing.
So you'd rather have McCarthy in Chicago than Pete Carroll or Ben Johnson?
100%. Yeah, I do. I like Ben Johnson. Obviously, he's a big brain. He's done a hell of a job with the Lions offense. But I think what Caleb needs is somebody to slow it down for him, and use his best attributes. I think you go back to that 12-5 year with the Cowboys last year with Dak. I thought Dak was poised. He was concise. I thought his reads were perfect up until obviously the Green Bay dog walked him in the playoffs. That's a whole nother story. But I even go back to that game, the Miami game last year, Dallas and Miami. Like, people forget, I think Dak was in that fourth quarter. I think he had the ball for like 7 minutes, but he kept him alive in that game. He ultimately scored because it was like a penalty. They got back. It was a penalty. He got back. But he was making precise and deliberate decisions with the football and actually gave the defense the ball while the Cowboys were ahead. And then Tua and the Dolphins kind of, they springboarded and clinched the division after the game. But I was like, man, Dak feels good. Like, this looks like a Cowboys offense that you could fall in love with. And then, Green Bay Dallas happened, and that was just a nightmare in itself.
That was a wrap.
That was it.
All righty, Willie Colon, always appreciate the time. It's a great job. SNY, also FS1. Willie, thanks.
Thank you. See my dad fit? This is what happens when you're cleaning the kitchen and you're throwing away chicken tenders or fighting 3 or 4-year-olds. This is the dad fit.
I thought you were just a little hot today. Big fella getting a little hot. That's what I thought. I've been in that look before. There he is, Willie Colon. It is the Zach Gelb Show on the Infinity Sports Network. We'll do a no-huddle offense next.
You're in a 5-minute break. Four minutes, 30 seconds remaining. Four minutes remaining. Three minutes, 30 seconds remaining. 3 minutes remaining. Two minutes, 30 seconds remaining. Two minutes remaining. One minute, 30 seconds remaining. One minute remaining. Forty-five seconds remaining. Thirty seconds remaining. Fifteen seconds. Break ends in 5 seconds.
Touchdowns, sacks, upsets, and last-minute heroics. Another NFL Sunday is in the books, and we've got you covered with the biggest plays and sound bites from another wild week in the National Football League. It's time for No Huddle Offense on the Zach Gelb Show.
Alrighty, let's get it going. We look back at Wild Card Weekend, Chargers and Texans. Originally, the Chargers were up 6-0 at the end of one, and I was like, they should be up by a lot more. The Texans end up winning this game 32-12. Let's listen to the Eric Murray 38-yard interception return to the house. This made it 20-6. Texans.
Justin Herbert gets the shotgun snap, looks to the left, pumps and throws left side, too tall, and it's intercepted, picked off down the sideline. Eric Murray, he's going to take it unmolested for a Houston pick six. Nobody laid a glove on Eric Murray, and a pick six later, the Texans lead it 19-6.
I never heard a player walking into the end zone saying he was unmolested. That was just, I don't know. That just didn't sound right to me. Justin Herbert, 14-32 for 242 yards, 4 interceptions. Has never thrown 3 interceptions in a game. Well, great time to do so, and then add one more on to that. He is now 0 for 2 with the 52 completion percentage, 2 touchdowns and 4 interceptions in 2 playoff games. Their last playoff game, remember, was up against the Jaguars. They had that huge lead, and then they did see that lead squander away, and Brandon Staley, that was the beginning of the end to him with the Chargers. J.K. Dobbins and Edwards had 16 carries for 48 yards combined. McConkey, 9 for $197, a touchdown. Got them anytime touchdown bet. C.J. Stroud, phenomenal second half. Finished for the game 22-33 for 282 yards, a touchdown and interception. Also had 6 carries for 42 yards. And Joe Mixon, 106 yards rushing and a touchdown. Nico Collins, 7 for $122 and a touchdown. Will Anderson and Mario Edwards had a sack and a half each. Stu, what's the question here?
All right, how confident are you that Justin Herbert can be a Super Bowl winning quarterback at some point?
Super Bowl winning?
Super Bowl winning.
He's good. He has a really damn good head coach. He needs more talent around him. But can he win a playoff game first before we talk about winning a Super Bowl? Can he just win one before we talk about a Super Bowl? So right now I wouldn't be very confident. Let's get his first playoff victory. Then maybe we could start talking Super Bowl. Let's go to Steelers and Ravens. Willie Colon texted me. He goes, appreciate you letting me vent about my Steelers on your radio show. He was really fired up right out of the gate. That was pretty good stuff with Willie Colon. Ravens win 28-14. It felt a lot worse than just 28-14. But you take a glance back in this one. Russell Wilson, what could be his final game with the Steelers, 28-29, 270 yards, 2 touchdowns. Steelers only 11 carries for 29 rushing yards. George Pickens, 5 for 87. And a touchdown. TJ Watt, no tackles, 0 sacks, 1 QB pressure. Lamar Jackson puts up 2 touchdowns on 175 yards throwing, 15 carries for 81 yards. And Derrick Henry, my oh my, 26 carries for 186 yards and 2 touchdowns. No wide receiver for the Ravens had over 3 catches or 30 yards, but it doesn't matter. Ravens win. They go to Buffalo this upcoming Sunday. Let's listen up to the King Henry 44-yard touchdown run. This made it Ravens 28, Steelers 7.
Jackson will hand it off. Derrick Henry up the middle. He's in the 30, 20, leg race, gone! Touchdown, Derrick Henry! And they're going wild at M&T! 44 for the score. Derrick Henry now with 17 carries and 155 yards and 2 rushing touchdowns.
Stu, what do we got cooking here?
All right, what do you think is next for Tomlin, Russ, and Fields in Pittsburgh?
I would say Russell Wilson, thanks but no thanks. I would not give him a long-term deal. I would rather have Justin Fields be the starter next year than Russell Wilson. For Mike Tomlin, I would sit him down, as I've been saying all throughout the show, and I would say, I know you're under contract for 3 more seasons. I know Willie Colon doesn't want you to get fired, but if you don't give me a playoff victory or a franchise quarterback in the next 2 years, we are moving on. We are getting rid of you as the head football coach of the Pittsburgh Steelers. I know he'd be scooped up in a second and somebody else would hire him, but everyone eventually has an expiration date in the National Football League and also in life in general. So I would, let me ask you this. For a year, if I tell you next year, Stu, Aaron Rodgers, Justin Fields, or Russell Wilson, who would you rather have?
For one year, I think I'd go Rodgers.
I would still go Justin Fields because he's the youngest out of the 3. Now, if I could tell you multi-year contract Sam Darnold, would you do it? 4 years, you got to pay him $40 million a year.
I probably would not do that.
I would consider it because I know you got to get a little bit more around him, and you could say, okay, maybe he's the product of the system in Minnesota. Let's see what happens tonight, too, because that could change the narrative and drive the price down if he doesn't play well. If he does play well, then the price goes up. But then that would be Lions, not so good. And then what we just saw tonight, depending on what it would be, potentially not so good. But I would consider bringing Fields back. Russ, no, and then Tomlin, you sit him down 2 more years, and you got to find a way to win a playoff game or find the franchise quarterback. All righty, let's go right to Buffalo. Josh Allen, this play was sick. I still don't know if it was a catch. I thought the foot went out of bounds, but his knee was down. But did he have full possession of the football when that happened? They called it a touchdown on the field on 4th down, and they kept it a touchdown on the field after review. Here's the Josh Allen 24-yard touchdown pass to Ty Johnson to make it Bills 21, Broncos 7.
Shotgun snap, he's going to throw on 4th down. Steps up, rolls to his right, holding, looking for somebody. There's nothing. He now fires to the back of the end zone. It is caught! Touchdown! Ty Johnson! Off his back foot, Allen just spun it to the back of the end zone, and Johnson dove on the ground to cup it clean. It is 19-7 Bills on a spectacular throw and catch.
What an unbelievable play and what an unbelievable catch They said it counted, so we'll call it a catch. Bo Nix, 13 to 22, 144 yards passing and a touchdown. Had 101 yards passing outside of his 43-yard touchdown on the first drive. Cortland Sutton, 5 for 75. Broncos, they only had 2 sacks in this one. They led the NFL with 63 sacks. Josh Allen, very efficient day at the office. 20 to 26, 272 yards passing with 2 passing touchdowns and 46 rushing yards. James Cook, 120 yards and a touchdown. Curtis Samuel, 3 for 68 and a touchdown. And Bills, 23 more minutes in this game where they possessed the football longer. Stu, what's the question?
All right, after a good season, second season with Denver, where do you rank Sean Payton right now among NFL head coaches?
That's a great question. So, obviously, he's in the top 10. Is there a coach in the AFC East better than Sean Payton? I would say no. Is there a coach in the AFC North that's better than him? I could make the case for John Harbaugh. I would not say Mike Tomlin. I would not say Zach Taylor. And I would obviously not say Kevin Stefanski. So there's one. DeMeco Ryans. I've been really impressed with DeMeco Ryans, but I'd still say it's Sean Payton. Colts, no. Jaguars, no. Well, Jaguars don't have a coach right now. And Tennessee, no. Andy Reid, obviously, is not better than Sean Payton. Jim Harbaugh or Sean Payton. I was more impressed with Sean this year. I was. You know, who would have thought that Bo Nix would have done this? Sirianni, no. Dan Quinn, no. NFC North, I would say Dan Campbell right now is a better coach. I would say Kevin O'Connell right now is a better coach. Matt LaFleur, no. No one in the NFC South. And then NFC West, I would say McVay. Shanahan's an interesting one, but Shanahan just went 6-11. So right now, I would say he's in that range of 5 to 7. 5 to 7, I think, is a fair number for Sean Payton. Yeah, this was a really good year. I didn't think we were going to be talking about the Broncos this year. I didn't like his decision to go to Denver. He proved me wrong this year. Now we'll see if he can do it for the foreseeable future. I was in Philly for this one. Eagles and Packers. Let's hear Jalen Hurts get the ball to Dallas Goedert. And then I think Ross Tucker was doing this game. I don't know what call we're going to play. It was basically like a 20-yard stiff arm down the sideline for a touchdown. Listen up.
Hurts throws to his left for Goddard. Goddard takes it, spins. Goddard shoulders his way inside the 15. Stiff arms to the 10. Inside the 5. Touchdown, Eagles. That was all Dallas Goedert. 24 yards. And the Eagles are on top 16-3.
That was a 20-yard stiff arm. I've never seen that before.
Amazing.
I love Ross Tucker. He's awesome. 119 rushing yards to Saquon Barkley. Screwed me on my anytime touchdown parlay. At the end of the game, he could have went right into the end zone. I had him and James Cook. I think it was at like plus 210 or something like that. And he elects not to go into the end zone. He had the guy beat, but he easily had the 40, 50 more yards. So you know what? I don't usually say that it's rigged, but this is one of those cases that I'm going to say someone got in his ear and told him to go down. But anyway, Saquon 119 rushing yards. Jalen Hurts only 131 passing yards, 2 passing touchdowns, 36 rushing yards. A.J. Brown, 1 catch for 10 yards and also did read a book on the sideline. That's my favorite stat. And Nolan Smith was spectacular in this game. He had 2 sacks. Unbelievable season for him. He's really done a great job for the Eagles this year. Unfortunately, another Georgia Bulldog, Nakobe Dean's going to be done for the season, which is a big loss for the Eagles. But Lions fans will say, hey, just join the party on losing defensive players, so they're not going to want to have any sympathy for you on that. Jordan Love, 20 of 33, 212 yards passing, no touchdowns, 3 interceptions. Josh Jacobs did have 121 total yards in this game and a touchdown. Stu?
Yeah, when looking at the Packers, Jordan Love, has he taken a step back or was he just a little overhyped this offseason?
So last year, his first half was not good. Right, I remember talking to Kevin Harlan. We were like, we don't even know if Jordan Love is the guy in Green Bay. And the second half, I want to say he had 20 total touchdowns in his final 8 games last year and an interception. It was unbelievable. And then he won a playoff game. And then the second playoff game, they lost because he threw the ball across his body and he got an interception. But that was a good run up against the San Francisco 49ers. So, yes, he was overhyped going into this year because we didn't see him put it together for a full season. Now, with that being said, do I think he's a bad quarterback? Absolutely not. I think he's a really good young quarterback, but he was overhyped in the offseason. But the Packers need to go get him a number 1 wide receiver. You know, Christian Watson got hurt. Wicks, Romeo Doubs, Reed, like, it's a nice committee, but there's no one that really puts fear into the opposition's eyes. So go get him a number 1 wide receiver. But, yeah, he was overhyped heading into this season. And finally, Act's favorite call of the weekend, the Zane Gonzalez game-winning 37-yard field goal, 23-20. Commanders win.
Zane Gonzalez looking to send Washington into the divisional round. Snap good, hold down, kick on its way. It is good! The Cardiac Commanders are the clutch Commanders! They do it again! We'll see you in Detroit! And Zane Gonzalez kicks in the door and kicks us into the second round of the playoffs!
If I was a Commanders fan, I would love it. But if you were in your car listening to that game, which I was listening to Westwood One, so I got a better description, you would have no clue off the Commanders radio network that ball hit the right upright and then went in. The kick almost missed. So it was a doink to get into the divisional round. A divisional doink, I think is what Mike Tirico said. So you look back at this one, Jaden Daniels' story, 24-35, 268 passing yards, two passing touchdowns, 36 rushing yards. That led the team. You also had Terry McLaurin, 7 for 89 and a touchdown. Baker Mayfield, 15 of 18 for only 185 yards, but they have 2 passing touchdowns, only 23 rushing yards. And Bucky Irving, really good rookie year, 17 carries for 77 yards. Mike Evans, 7 catches for 92 yards and a touchdown. Stu?
All right, looking at the Bucs, their season's over. Can they build a legit contender with this core, or is that window closed?
The window closed when Tom Brady walked out. Now, they have reestablished a good team and a team that has still won the NFC South twice since Tom Brady has left. But do I think that they're close to being a Super Bowl contender? No. I think there's one of those teams. They could go win 9, 10, 11 games a year. They could win the NFC South, maybe win a playoff game at most, and then at the absolute latest, they're going home in the divisional round. All right, that will do it for the No Huddle Offense. Another week in the National Football League, wildcard edition of No Huddle Offense. We will take a break. We'll come on back. We got one more wildcard game tonight, and all the pressure is on Sam Darnold. Will Sam Darnold be able to be the man tonight, or are we going to see Matthew Stafford and Sean McVay have reservations for a little Sunday afternoon trip to Philadelphia? We'll get to that on the other side. Update time first. Here's the Act Man.
Infinity Sports Network Sports Flash.
Just for you, head coach Kevin O'Connell of the Vikings is confident that his quarterback, Sam Darnold, can recover from that poor performance a week ago.
Sam Darnold's a huge reason why we won 14 games, and his teammates know that, we know it, and that's the mental toughness of it, is also acknowledging the confidence he should have to put together another great week of preparation and go play.
So there you go. The NFL moved tonight's game from Los Angeles to Arizona because of the wildfires that took place last week, killing 24 people so far and ruining thousands of homes. The Vikings and the Rams tonight in Glendale, Arizona to conclude Wild Card Weekend. This will be the first playoff start for Darnold as the Vikings look to avenge one of their 3 losses on the season. The other 2 came against the Lions. One coaching vacancy filled, another open today with Mike Vrabel officially announced as the new Patriots coach, and the Cowboys and Mike McCarthy parting ways after 5 years, 3 playoff seasons in that span. I'm Rich Ackerman.
This is the Infinity Sports Network. Follow us on X. Our handle is INF Sports Network. That's INF Sports Network on X.
You're in a 5-minute break. Four minutes, 30 seconds remaining. 4 minutes remaining. Three minutes, 30 seconds remaining. Three minutes remaining. Two minutes, 30 seconds remaining. Two minutes remaining. One minute, 30 seconds remaining. One minute remaining. Five seconds remaining. Seconds remaining. Fifteen seconds. Break ends in 5 seconds.
Hey, this is Howie. And this is Nick. We're the Backstreet Boys, and you're listening to the Zach Gelb Show. And guess what? Zach is back. All right.
He's live. He's nationwide. This is the Zach Gelb Show.
Oh, my God, we're back again.
Before I get to the Ask the Pros question of the day, I got a text this weekend that if you listen to the show since the weekend overnights, I think you will appreciate. So there were two callers I haven't heard from in a while. One is Hippie in Miami, where he would call in. He'd be like, Zach, you're the future. I was around when Doc Gooden and Darryl Strawberry dominated the Mets. You're those guys without the drugs. You're the future here at CBS Sports Radio. Well, I did not hear from Hippie. But there was a caller, Mitch, in Miami. And Mitch would call me almost every weekend. And I could tell Mitch was just getting home when he would call me from a late night out. So I get a text, Stu, 10:56 p.m. Eastern time, Friday evening, from Barrett Sallee, who covers college football for Outkick. And he said, do you remember Miami Mitch, who used to call you from a strip club? And I'm not going to lie. When I got this text from Barrett Sallee, I thought two things. One, he somehow ran into Miami Mitch. Or number two, something happened to Miami Mitch or he was no longer with us and like he heard it on the radio or something. Because I guess Miami Mitch is a longtime sports talk radio caller. I said, yes, I'm afraid to ask why. I got a picture back of Miami Mitch with Barrett Sallee. They were at the sports book together. I said, insanity. He was a great caller, hilarious. How the heck are you two together? And Barrett Sallee said, so damn funny. We ended up just ironically sitting next to each other in the sports book, and they started talking about sports media, and he said that he used to always call me on the weekend overnights. And Barrett Sallee, obviously, you know, the two of us are friendly. We have him on all the time. And there you go. So Miami Mitch, he's alive. You know, I haven't heard from Hippie in a while, and I haven't heard from Miami Mitch. But Miami Mitch is alive. Hippie, I have no clue about. Anyway, I'll never forget. Hippie once called me still. He was in bed with a lady friend next to him in the middle of the night. And no, I'm not talking about the Billy Joel song. In the middle of the night, and he put the girl on the air. Now, it wasn't as vulgar and crazy as one of my favorite radio interviews ever. Jorge Sedano, who's now with ESPN, George Sedano, who used to do 790 The Ticket, I think it was on, or either 560 WQAM. He had Dennis Rodman on. And Dennis Rodman had a lady friend next to him. And let's just say there were some sexual acts that were going on. And that was happening during the interview. It's one of the funniest 10 minutes of radio that I've ever heard. Anyway, it's time to answer Ask the Pros question of the day. And it's brought to you by O'Reilly Auto Parts. Alex in Minneapolis says, Zach, who do you think wins tonight between the Vikings and Rams? You could submit a question by tweeting at INF Sportsnet or at Zach Gelb using the hashtag Ask the Pros. Think O'Reilly Auto Parts for all your car care needs. Get guaranteed low prices and excellent customer service from the professional parts people at O'Reilly Auto Parts. O'Reilly Auto Parts. The only game that I picked wrong this weekend was the Texans-Chargers game. I thought the Chargers were going to win. I thought the Ravens would win and cover the spread. I thought the Bills would win and cover the spread. I thought the Eagles would win and cover the spread. I liked the Commanders to win the game outright. They were getting 3 points. My picks on Friday, we went 2-1. I took the Commanders +3. I took the Eagles laying 4.5. And then I did lay the 3 with the Chargers. So we went 2-1 for Wild Card Weekend. Tonight, Minnesota's a 2.5-point favorite. Vikings have a really good defense. I'm going to go with the Rams tonight. I like the Rams. If you're giving me the points, I'll take them +2.5. I'll take the Rams to win the game outright. I just look at Minnesota right now. Justin Jefferson's a stud. Addison's really damn good. Hawkinson is back and healthy. Brian Flores has done a phenomenal job with that defense. I think you got a nice performance tonight from Braden Fisk and Jared Verse. And I just look at the quarterbacks. Stafford hasn't had a great year, but maybe this is an overreaction after the Lions game. Sam Darnold had a lot on the line just when he was getting praised, and he didn't play well. Now, you got Puka Nacua, you got Cooper Kupp, you got Kyron Williams, so it's not as if you have slim pickings with the options for the Rams and you gas up how much the Vikings have with their weapons. But big game, big spot. This is probably what Vegas wants me to do because I think a lot of people look at it and go, oh, the Rams with McVay and Stafford, they won a Super Bowl. The Vikings, big spot against the Lions, an overreaction. They're done, even though they had 14 wins this year compared to the Rams 10. I just like the Rams tonight. And if I end up having egg on my face tomorrow, that's fine. These two teams played earlier in the year. The Rams won 30-20. But both these teams are much different from where we were at that stage of the season. Something just tells me tonight that the Rams win and the Rams are going to be marching into Philadelphia next week. And before the season, I had the Rams going to the Super Bowl. And I actually had the Rams going to the NFC Championship game and defeating the Philadelphia Eagles. So that's not me saying I picked the Rams next week in the divisional round up against the Philadelphia Eagles. But I'm going to take the Rams here to go find a way to win this game. All righty, that will do it for this very quick but busy and wild edition of the Zach Gelb Show on this Monday. We'll be back tomorrow at 3 p.m. Eastern, noon Pacific. Big thanks to Moist Mike. Also big thanks to Stupak as well for producing this extravaganza. Ack on the updates. And I also like to thank Willie Colon for stopping on by. Recapped all those wild card games. Got the final wild card game tonight. And the Cowboys. The search will start. But Willie Colon agreeing with me that the Bears, they should go get Mike McCarthy. And I said if they can't get Ben Johnson, go get Mike McCarthy. But he said, hey, Ben Johnson, Pete Carroll, don't matter. He wants Mike McCarthy in Chicago. We'll talk to you tomorrow, everybody. Make sure you give me a follow on Twitter and Instagram at Zach Gelb, ZACHGELB. We out. Bye-bye.